Hello, everybody. Hello. Give me some claps. Okay, what do we got? We got the emoji wall going. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to see you. It has been too long. It has been all summer since we had the last Vegan Women's Summit. I am so excited to have you here today. I'm Jenny Stojkovic. I am the founder of Vegan Women's Summit, and we are so thrilled about what we have in store for today. If you can believe it, we have over 500 people signed up from all across the world. I'd love to know where you're joining from. So please drop it in the chat so we can hear where you will be joining from. I was in the speed networking sessions earlier today. I had a great conversation with somebody in San Antonio, Texas. Super curious to hear where everybody else is. Early morning here in Los Angeles where I am. So I am absolutely just blown away by the content that we have in store for today's VWS Pathfinder. I'm going to give you a few quick tips about what to expect for today. We'll go through a little bit of housekeeping. We've got some thank yous and recognitions. And then, of course, we will get straight to the speaking program. Does that sound good, everybody? Awesome. Okay, so first off, I want to give a big thank you to all of our sponsors that are going to be helping support everything going on today. So Upfield, they have been our main sponsor of this event since day one. This is our third annual VWS Pathfinder Pitch Competition and Summit. Huge thank you to Upfield. We also have a number of other amazing VC and startup sponsors that we want to thank. You'll see them throughout today's conversation. Some of the most incredible people all around the world are helping make this event happen. And even more exciting than that, I am very thrilled to see what we are going to accomplish with today's prize package. Our main prize sponsor is Faster Forward. Faster Forward is a brand new branding agency that focuses specifically on the plant-based and future of food sector, and they also have a huge focus on women founders. So they're going to be creating an incredible package for the winner of today's pitch competition. So you're going to be seeing a lot of different things today. We have panels, founder chats, spotlights of really cool ideas we want you to hear about. We'll also have more speed networking throughout the day. We will have a break. If you go take a look just on the right there, there is an agenda. The agenda will share with you all of the different information that you need to know about today's run of show. After the break, you'll meet a few more people. Good chance to share what you're liking about today's conversation. And then the last segment of today's conversation will be, of course, our live pitch competition. I cannot believe how many people have applied to this year's pitch competition. So a lot of people say, you know, there just really aren't that many women founders out there, or it's really hard to find women CEOs to speak. But since we launched, we've found over 200 of them. So there's certainly no shortage. And on top of that, since launching VWS Pathfinder just over 2 years ago, our pitch competition has now reached over 1,200 women founders across 6 continents and 31 countries. How incredible is that? So we have some of the top that will be joining today. We have founders that are going to be pitching from all across the world. We've got Europe, we've got Africa, we've got Canada, the United States, all kinds of different areas and countries all around the world that I'm excited for you to hear more about. Some other quick housekeeping notes. So if you have any problems throughout today, hearing or seeing anything, the easiest thing to do, just hit that little refresh button. So if you refresh your screen, 99% of all issues will be solved. Sometimes the Wi-Fi gods are not too kind to us, so that's a quick fix. You will also be able to ask folks in the chat and reach out to us if you have any issues. We do have an entire team that is behind the scenes producing today's event. And you know what's really cool about that? We have an all women's team today producing this event for you. How amazing is that? We will be throughout the day giving you opportunities to learn more about the attendees. So the chat's going to share all kinds of really cool links and conversations about what these founders and CEOs are working on. So feel free to keep up with links in the chat. You also have the opportunity to share a little bit about yourself. So in the top right corner, I can see, looking at everybody's profile, lots of you have got in there and already updated your profile. But that is your opportunity in that top right corner to create all of your links and all of your handles so that when people are meeting you in the live networking, they can hover right over your name and then they'll see your LinkedIn, your Twitter, or any profiles that you connect. That way, you'll make sure to take all of today's networking connections off of the platform later. This event, of course, is being recorded, so don't worry if you have to step away or if you're one of the many attendees that signs up just to get the recording. We will be sharing all of this out afterwards. The last thing I'm going to share with you before I hand it over to our welcome opening chat is I am very, very excited to tell you we will be giving out prizes today. Yes, there will be prizes. We are going to be following all of your posts throughout today's conversation. So you'll see in the chat where to follow us. We are on Instagram at Vegan Women's Summit, on LinkedIn, Vegan Women's Summit, on Facebook, Vegan Women's Summit, and on Twitter, Veg Women's Summit. Yeah, they've got a character count. Maybe we can write into Elon about that one. So if you want to post about today's conversations, what you're loving hearing, or any of the interesting tidbits that you jot down, please tag us, and you can use the hashtag VWS Pathfinder. We will be pulling lucky winners throughout the day to win tickets to join us live in New York City next May at the Vegan Women's Summit. Yes, that's right. We are giving out free tickets. We are in pre-sale mode right now. We haven't even launched general tickets, and you could be one of the first in the entire world to snag tickets. So please keep posting and tagging us all throughout the day to win your tickets. I think that is about it for me. Are you guys ready to start today's summit? Are you amped? Show me the emoji wall, okay? All right, let's see it. If you are a first timer joining us at VWS, let's do a heart. And if you are a veteran, if you've been live with us before, let's do a thumbs up. Let's see. Ooh, I'm seeing a lot of hearts. Okay, newbies, well, you're gonna have a fun time today. And with that, I'm gonna turn things over to our opening chat with Sonalie Figueiras joining from Hong Kong to talk about the state of the plant-based industry and level set today's conversation. I will see you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. My name is Sonalie Figueiras, and I'm super excited to be here for the third time at VWS, which is such a fantastic platform for all emerging women entrepreneurs in food. I wanted to talk to you guys about what's going on in the world of future of food and food tech and alternative protein, because I'm sure, just like me, you are seeing some headlines and wondering, is it true? Is plant-based meat dead? Is plant-based meat unhealthy? What's going on? So I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of noise right now in the industry all around the world, but especially in the US. And we are really missing the forest from the trees. Okay? There has never been a more urgent need for what I like to call the decarbonization of our food system. The case for alternative proteins has never been stronger. Climate change is only getting worse, and it will continue to do so. What happens when climate change gets worse? Well, all our agricultural systems are put under pressure. Our water usage is put under pressure. Our soil health is put under pressure. And so we need to find different ways to grow our food. So we have to rethink the food system. Now, the urgency of this will not be felt by everyone on the planet until about 10 to 15 years from now, but it is coming. So to be very frank, the whole raison d'etre for the plant-based meat industry, and I'll also include the cultivated meat industry and the precision fermentation and biomass fermentation industry, basically all of the future of food technology area has never been clearer. What is missing from the conversation is the urgency from stakeholders, and that includes governments, corporations. I mean, even when I go to sustainability conferences, we're just not talking enough about food. And when you consider that our food systems are responsible for over 1/3 of all global emissions worldwide, it's really just quite insane that we minimize food's role in decarbonization so much. We sure like to talk about electric vehicles. We sure like to talk about transportation and energy, but we really just don't talk enough about food. However, it is important to address certain things that have happened in our industry. And, we've been writing about the future of food over at Green Queen, the basically Asia's largest sustainability media and also one of the leading alternative protein media on the planet. We've been writing about this industry since its infancy, before it was even called alternative protein and food tech. And we have the kind of privilege of telling the story of, at this point, thousands of companies all around the world, startups with founders who are desperate to rethink our food system and provide nutritious, safe, accessible, budget-friendly, and environmentally friendly food. But what's really happened in the last few years, and this isn't just limited to food tech, is that there's been too much money because the markets have just been buoyant. And what's happened is VCs and other investors have poured in money into startups that were frankly not ready. And we've had too many launches too quickly. And so in places like the US, there's just supermarket shelves crowded with products that range from excellent to mediocre. And what that's done is it's honestly confused consumers to some extent. And it's also meant that there are some not so great results and performances on retail shelves. That fact does not change that this industry is incredibly important, and that in 10-15 years, when hundreds of millions of people across the world move up to the middle class and start demanding more protein, we're going to need alternatives, because we simply don't have enough resources on the planet to meet the demand for animal protein that is coming. However, I think a correction in a market is always a good thing. And the way that I see it is that if you look at the early 2000s and what happened with the e-commerce industry, where there was a huge shakeout after the crash, I think that we're having a mini version of that in plant-based meats. And so there's going to be a bit of a shakeout. And some of the more mediocre products and startups that maybe don't have strong IP or are basically little more than a marketing story and really haven't invested in the rest of what they need to be investing, which is the technology, the IP, the texture, bringing the price down, and also educating their consumer and understanding who their consumer is. Those companies that haven't done the job right are going to go under, because there's no more excess VC money to fund hype and silliness. But the quality companies in this industry will only get stronger. And I have the privilege of speaking to VCs all over the world, speaking to stakeholders all over the world, including all the teams at all the big food companies. And no one has changed their mind about the value of this industry and the absolute need for it, because we have a climate emergency that demands that we rethink our food system. So that's part one of what I really wanted to talk about, because I think there's just a lot of noise out there, and it's important to set things straight as we go into this incredible conference with all these pitches from brilliant women. If we look at things from a less US-centric level, we will see that actually this narrative that is being sold to us in the headlines, as often happens, is way too US-centric. Actually, in Asia, we do not have the same plant-based meat slowdown that is being observed in certain retailers in the US. That's because, first of all, we don't have, hundreds of brands on shelves. We have a much more diverse and localized system. So different countries have stronger local and regional players, and they have put a little bit more time into really making sure that their products are meeting local tastes and needs. And what that means is that we're at a different part of the growth curve. we're earlier on. Also, to be honest, investors in Asia tend to be more conservative. They tend to be a little bit less, a little bit more immune to the hype, and a little bit less kind of taken in by just great branding and a great pitch deck. Their due diligence is a little bit harder to get through. And so we've had less over frothy investments across APAC into this industry. So actually, that's been good for startups, because startups here are leaner, they're more disciplined, and they're much more focused on their P&L earlier on, especially in the plant-based scene. Obviously, in cultivated and fermentation space, those are R&D plays. So that is a completely different conversation. But what we find on average is that the APAC consumer is quite different than the European consumer and the US consumer. So what we see overall is that a European consumer tends to be a very food aware person. A lot of European consumers tend to cook. They tend to know a lot more about their food system, and they tend to be a lot more climate conscious. What we see in the US is more a consumer that is very, very attached to meat as a cultural and national identity. In Asia, we really don't have that to the same degree. Meat is a luxury food. It is a food that people want when their income grows, or when their socioeconomic status changes. But overall, there is an understanding in Asia that too much meat consumption is actually bad for your health. And most Asians did not grow up with grazing cows around them in a field. So they don't have that connection to beef that I would say Europeans have and North Americans have. And so there isn't this kind of breakdown of a national identity based on meat specifically. Their identity is more around foods in general, but not specifically around, a pig or a chicken. And so as a result, Asian consumers tend to be much more open to plant-based meat as a healthy alternative. Whereas what's happening in the US, and this is a very disturbing trend, is that big meat has just come in with their tens of millions of lobby dollars and really started to convince people that plant-based meat is processed and therefore it's unhealthy. Now, of course, those of us in the industry, we know that meat has its own health issues that is not covered on the beef label at the supermarket. But in Asia, that seems to be different. Asian consumers tend to see plant-based meat as a way to, for example, lower their cholesterol intake and lower their fat intake. And those are important motivations for them to go towards plant-based meat. I think in Asia, the plant-based meat consumer is much more concerned about health, much less concerned about animal welfare, and much less concerned about climate, but much more concerned about health, and of course, very price conscious, because of course, GDPs per capita is lower here. So startups here have to work a lot harder to be price sensitive, because Asian consumers are not going to be able to pay the really, really expensive premium that we see European customers and American customers paying. So that's a big difference, but a big area of opportunity for people for companies that are looking to get into Asia. At Green Queen, we do a really big report every year called the APAC Alt Protein Industry Report. Our 2022 edition is coming out at the end of November, early December. So there's going to be a lot going on there. And I think it's great to have a look at what's going on in the APAC region, because it is quite different. And it's really important to remember that, when we see people attacking Beyond Meat, which is to this day the only real listed public plant-based meat company, we're really doing a disservice to an industry that includes thousands of players and that offers a huge diversity of product and quality and solutions. And so we really need to keep that in mind. And the last thing I really want to talk about is the role of women in this industry. I think that what is really missing in this industry, and obviously I am biased because I run a media platform, but we've put a lot of investor dollars into creating product and into R&D and into bulwarking technology, but we have put no dollars into engagement and education and community outreach and helping busy moms, because it does tend to be moms who do the meal planning in their households, to understand how to use these products, how to cook these products, how to feed them to their children. And that's been a huge miss. We've missed out the whole home cook in a lot of the rollouts. We've made these rollouts too, restaurant focused and too supermarket focused, and we've forgotten about the person that's buying it and cooking it. And there's a huge work. There's huge work that needs to be done in that space. And honestly, there needs to be a lot more women at the helm of these companies and at the helm of movements that help the industry, because I see a lot of industry lobby groups led by men. And again, men tend to miss out on the domestic sphere and the importance of the domestic sphere. Let's not forget that women control the supermarket purse strings. So we need to influence women, and we're not doing a very good job of that. And that, I would say, is relevant whether we're talking about Europe, APAC, or the US. And so while you have a captive audience here of inspiring and inspired women, it would be great if we could see more women stepping into leadership roles as, outreach activists, education activists, media activists, to really kind of get the message across to moms and household heads that we need to decarbonize our food system. We have all these great solutions, and here's how you implement them and use them within your kitchen or on your meal table or for your family. Because at the end of the day, we're all busy, and we really, really need help to make more climate conscious decisions. And there isn't enough being invested in those type of businesses and those type of organizations. So that's something to really think about if you want to get into this space. Can you do something in that role? Because we can't just have products that people don't know how to use. And my advice for everyone today is to remember that you can play a role in the future of food. And it doesn't have to mean starting a cultivated meat company. It can mean being an educator in this space. I almost feel like we need, like Tupperware clubs for plant-based meat, and community organizers led by women who are often the strongest advocates and the strongest evangelists of any movement, because they have the ear of their community, and they have the ear of other women, and women again control household purse strings. So we need them to be making different, more climate friendly choices when it comes to food. Thanks everyone for hearing me out, and I hope you have a great day today, and all the best to all the pitchers. And I can't wait to see the results. And I personally am very optimistic about the future of food. So don't let those headlines fool you. There's never been a more urgent need for what we're doing.
Wow. Can we give a virtual round of applause? Sonalie Figueiras, she is the queen. She is the green queen, and she is the perfect person to be here and set all of today's conversations. One of the things that just totally drives me nuts is 93% of all food in the world, it's consumed and purchased by women. We consumers, when it comes to food, are women, 93%. Yet why are we not the ones leading in this conversation? And, this is something Sonalie and I talk about a lot, and I'm so glad that she touched on that in today's conversation. We're going to be bringing up one of those amazing lobbyists that she mentioned. So she said, why are there so many male lobbying organizations? They're missing women's leadership and feminine in so many ways. And it's a perfect segue to our next panel. So let's bring up our next panel. We're going to be talking about the future of plant-based, and Sabina Bias from Plant-Based Foods Association will be leading that panel. Let's welcome you all up. You are all up. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Amazing. Well, I will turn it over to you, Sabina, and we can't wait to hear today's conversation.
Thank you, Jenny. Happy to be here. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm excited to moderate this conversation with these amazing leaders on the screen with you today. As Jenny mentioned, my name is Sabina Vyas. I am the Senior Director of Impact Strategies with the Plant-Based Foods Association and the Plant-Based Foods Institute. For those of you who don't know, PBFA is the first and only US-based trade association for plant-based food companies, representing over 300 plant-based food companies and leaders in this space. And the Plant-Based Foods Institute is our sister nonprofit that is looking to see a transition towards plant-based food systems through policy and business strategies. And I'm excited to be joined today with the leaders in this space. I'm joined by Sadra Shadell, the co-founder and CEO of No Evil Foods, who is also a PBFA board member. We have Deborah Torres, who's the founder and CEO of Atlas Monroe, and Kali Martyr, the co-founder and COO of Renegade Foods. And excited to dive into the conversation of the future of plant-based. Sonalie, thank you for setting us up to show that plant-based is indeed not dead, and we are looking forward to diving into why that is. Exciting stat on my end is that PBFA and Kroger will be releasing data next week that shows that we are seeing a shift from plant-based to animal-based foods in retail. So Kroger is the number one retailer here in the U.S., and by partnering with them, we've been able to look at over 8 million households over a 2-year period to see that those of folks who are eating plant-based foods are indeed shifting and seeing people shift to plant-based away from animal-based foods. And more on that next week. And on the food service side, we've seen that the term plant-based has grown on menus over 20% in the past year. So that's positive news for plant-based, and I'm looking to turn it over to the panelists now to tell you their perspectives. But to get you started and let you know a little bit more about them, how about Sadra, we'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your company and what you want the audience to know are key elements of your brand? And are you plant-based or vegan positioned or both?
Thanks, Sabina. So my company, No Evil Foods, we've been making real food from plants since 2014. We really focus on the intersection of clean label innovation and pair that with a die-hard commitment to sustainability. We are the world's first plastic negative certified plant-based brand. And we believe that we don't need to mess up the planet in order to feed ourselves. And we certainly don't need to compromise great taste for healthy ingredients. So we created really delicious plant proteins using healthy ingredients that are healthy enough to really make a daily habit out of. And we use nothing but recognizable, simple, minimally processed ingredients. We are positioned definitely as a vegan company, but I would say that we are very plant-based inclusive. And so we recognize incremental change, and we really applaud that. And so we don't want to ever be exclusive of anyone, regardless of where they are in their journey. So we really applaud all the small steps, whether you are just plant-based one meal a day or one day a week. That's great. And we want to cheer you on for that and encourage you to make it 2 or 3 or 4.
Can hear you.
How about you, Deborah?
My company is Atlas Monroe. We are the world's largest true vegan fried chicken manufacturer. We make all of our products with all non-genetically modified ingredients. Most of the product is probably about 85 to 90% completely organic. And I would say that we're both vegan and plant-based. I feel like, just in the word plant-based, it's pretty basic, made from plants. And then, of course, vegan for the animals, vegan for the economy, vegan for our bodies. And so I would definitely say that it's both. I even think I would even go insofar as to say that people very much so use vegan and plant-based synonymously, and it shouldn't be something very confusing. So, yeah.
Thank you. All right, Kali.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Kali Martyr. I'm the COO and founder of Renegade Foods. Renegade really started to honor traditions and cultures with food, really looking to put out a product that ties food to culture in a clean, minimally processed way. So really using naturally derived flavors and real nutrition to put out a product that competes against its animal counterparts. We really wanted to put out an elevated culinary experience for people to enjoy, something that is fun to share with friends and family, and also that is ready to eat. We think there's a great space in the market for convenience foods, items that you can pick up and eat right away, that you don't need to bring home and cook. And so we really set out to kind of take over that space. Our target market is really the flexitarian. So we encourage people to think differently about foods made from plants, and you can make a difference one meal at a time. And so kind of in that vein, we are both vegan and plant-based. Again, call us what you want. We're both. We're inclusive of both. We encourage folks in both kind of categories to pursue a more plant-based diet.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you. I think it's helpful for everyone to know who they're talking to or listening to. And I think that you have a lot of overlap in where you all connect, and I think I love that about our space, because there is a community and there's a lot of shared values, and that shows up in your brands. Plant-based foods, as we've established, are not new. They've been around for centuries, but they've really taken off in the marketplace over the last, the recent years. What would you say are the key milestones for the plant-based foods industry and your category of plant-based meat specifically? How about you? I'll start with you, Deborah.
I think that just even for us, being named best fried chicken out of all the real chicken at the National Fried Chicken Festival, that was something incredible and something that, was pretty much unheard of, until we did that. And so I think that there's been just so many milestones. The veganism has grown so much exponentially. I think that, having so many plant-based vegan options in a lot of fast food, I think that that's pretty phenomenal. I think having plant-based vegan options in cities where we didn't see them before. I remember I've been vegan for 9 years now, and I remember going to, places in Middle America and not being able to get anything. And now, I can go to a restaurant or go to the grocery store and find vegan options. And I'm very grateful. Of course, there's still, vegan food deserts, if you will. But I think that many places have grown to have some type of vegan option. And I think that that's been really phenomenal. I think also that in terms of availability, resource-wise, I think that has grown exponentially as well. And that's something that for us, in terms of sourcing ingredients, it's been, we can go to different distributors, as opposed to, only this one distributor sells this one particular product that we need. Now it's like, we can compare pricing and make sure that our ingredients are actually organic and go back to the source. I think that that's really phenomenal as well. I think that overall, we've been doing amazing, especially in light of the pandemic and just kind of seeing how the world has changed. I think plant-based has grown, so much, and the work that we've done has really worked. So I'm very proud of the plant-based community. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Deborah. And so, Sadra, I'm going to ask you the same question and ask you that what do you think out of what key milestones that we've reached, what do you think is really also helping us to set us up for growth, to continue on that upward trajectory?
Yeah, I think visibility, just sort of piggybacking a little bit on what Deborah said, but visibility, when we have infiltrated a lot in a short period of time. And I think that awareness, the fact that we are considered mainstream now, those are all huge. Searches for vegan food near me grew 5,000% this year. So those are very, very big numbers. So I think that it's important to think about the scale, which we're now able to operate on. Like, this is a different playing field than we were in 2014 when my company started. And so how can we best take advantage of that? People know what plant-based means now, but that also means that the stakes are a lot higher. for the brands that are operating in this space, because there's an awareness. We're not doing as much awareness building generally as a category. Most people have a cursory understanding of what plant-based is, what vegan is, what types of products, or at least they think they do. And so I think that's the work that we have set out in front of us, is to make sure that the consumer, whether that's the retailer in what type of variety and birth of products there are to offer, or the suppliers and helping to steer them to create ingredients and packaging and other kind of downstream, or rather upstream inputs for the brands that they're serving, what we really need to serve our consumers best. But we need to set the stage a little bit better moving forward to make sure that people really understand what language we're speaking, and that we're really sharing our message and getting that to the right people in the most succinct and beneficial way.
Yeah, I agree with that. Kali, how about you? Both questions as well. What are the key milestones for you all? You started relatively very soon before the pandemic hit.
That was fun.
I met you at the first Vegan Women's Summit, and then the whole world shut down. So tell me.
No, absolutely. I see, there's a lot to unpack here. We could spend the entire time just talking about this one question. Obviously, there are key milestones for the industry on the production side, and kind of the availability of production space and kind of co-packing space. So that's a whole different rabbit hole. But I really think that there are 4 key things the industry needs to focus on in order to kind of elevate and continue in this space at a meaningful clip. So I think gone are the days where consumers are satisfied with a microwaved veggie burger, right? The stakes have really increased, and I think us as a community need to continue to keep up with that. So first and foremost, taste. It's got to taste good. Consumers have to be able to buy it over and over again. It has to be something that's put in the cart every time you go to the grocery store. The second is performance. It's got to perform equal or better to its animal counterpart. Consumers have really elevated their expectations of product performance in our category, and we need to continue to push as a community and as a category to ensure we're meeting that. Third is nutrition, and I know we'll talk about this a little later, but I think our category has to really make up for the myth that vegan food is all over-processed junk with no nutritional value. Because I think in a lot of spaces within this community, that's not true, and a lot of us are really pushing to debunk that myth and really show that vegan food can be incredibly nutrient dense and delicious, while still hitting on that performance and taste metric. And then last but not least, affordability. We really need to be at price parity or better with our animal counterparts in order to truly make a difference in this space. So I think those 4 pieces are really kind of elevating the space and moving us forward.
Yeah, I think you hit on so many important pieces, including the nutritional piece. So we know that there's, Sonalie, and what we've talked about today, there's nutritional benefits for plant-based foods. We know the environmental impact that's possible, as well as for the animals and health. And so how do we, while we have these benefits, as we talked about, the plant-based, especially plant-based meat, has come under recent scrutiny. What have you seen as challenges that you've been facing around plant-based in your category, and what's been keeping you up, waking you up at 3 o'clock in the morning around what the challenges the industry has been facing? Kali, let's continue with you.
All right. Well, I think, it's clear that the future of food is plant-based. I think, we're getting to a point where the average consumer is really starting to understand that at a pretty fundamental level. So, there have been some big players that have come in and brought plant-based eating to the forefront, but, with that also comes some scrutiny and some kind of negative media attention. Frankly, it's not, both from, kind of the plant-based space and also the meat-based space, it's not that uncommon when taking market share and kind of share of the stomach, that this happens. Every category goes through it. Look at the transportation industry with taxis and Uber taking over, and the hospitality industry with Airbnb taking over. The upheaval causes media scrutiny and kind of a flurry. Incumbents don't like markets being disruptive and innovated upon. So fundamentally, that's what we see going on here. It is encouraging to have, big players like Nestle and Kraft coming into the space with offerings, because they see a growth in the market. So it's exciting to be joined by some of those big players. But my overall takeaway is, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think there's a lot of good work happening in this space. And I think as a whole, the progression is going in the right direction.
Yes, agree. Sadra, how about you? Anything waking you up at 3:00 in the morning?
You mean besides my 3-year-old? Yes, lots of things. I think that it's marketing a lot, and how we stop making assumptions about what the consumer knows. We touched on this a little bit earlier, and I think that it's something that's really, it's on my mind a lot, because I think that we've taken huge leaps, and by taking huge leaps in this category, we've missed some very basic steps along the way in how we market our products. And all marketing should be focused on what our differentiator is. And I think that because the plant-based industry or category is so unique in that we're by and large very mission aligned, so we want each other to succeed, but that's also, I think, hurt us in some ways because we haven't wanted to take shots. And I think it's good that we haven't. We want to keep our category friendly. We want to keep that community that we've built, because it's one of the most fantastic things about operating in this space. But at the same time, that presents certain challenges where we're not really speaking about our own differentiators, our own value attributes in a way that really sets us apart from the product that's adjacent to us on the shelf. And so, I think that there's this righteousness associated with the category, and that's not a bad thing. I certainly don't dispute it, but our perceived inevitability that this category is going to succeed, I think, is harming us. We've been operating in an echo chamber where we just all are applauding these good things that we're doing because we're so connected to this mission and so passionate. But just being passionate isn't going to get us there. We need real tactical strategy. We can't just say we're going to eliminate animal agriculture by 2035 and poof, it's there. We need to do the work to make it so. And I think one of the areas that is critical for us to do that is the educational piece. We opened with that this morning, where, we really need to help the home cook understand what to do. Just Egg is not just like egg. I love it. We use it all the time in my house, but we've been trying so hard to prove parity that we're skipping over this educational piece that's critical. I've been living this lifestyle as a vegan or vegetarian for 40 years, and there's still some products I get where I look at the preparation instructions, and it doesn't really tell you what to do. It just says use it just like egg. That's not helpful. It's not it takes longer to cook. It takes more oil. It takes more time. And if you don't know those things and you don't have the time to trial and error, you might use it once and never come back to it. So we really need to make sure that our consumers know exactly what to do. If they buy an egg replacer, they need to know this works for banana bread. This doesn't work if I'm going to make an omelet. Helping people really get that. And I think we're so used to preaching to the choir that we're losing who we're really speaking to. And I think the other thing is that there are a lot of people who are actively betting against our category. When you talk about media scrutiny, they are celebrating our setbacks because it challenges and calls into question their long-held beliefs. It asks them to change in a way that they're not ready to change. They would actually love to see this entire movement fall on its face. And this is exactly when we need to push the hardest. When any movement for social change gains traction, there's opposition. This is when we can't stop. We need to keep pushing forward. This is how we know we're making an impact. In 1897, the best-selling car in the United States was electric. Oil companies, government policy, consumer readiness, poor performance slowed down the growth of electric cars for 125 years. We cannot let the same thing happen to plant-based. So we have to do better. We have to try harder. We have to do our jobs.
Amazing. Absolutely. And I love the electric car fact. I didn't know that. So thank you. I'm excited to learn something new too. Deborah, how about you?
To speak on the educational piece, that's huge. I'm seeing two sides of it. One, people, because of this confusion around the word plant-based and what that means and the ingredients, and there's this whole thing now in the media about, is plant-based even healthier than real meat? And to us, it's well, obviously. but I guess because I'm just going to say two major companies, one that uses genetically modified soy. That's a huge thing for our customers. Now our customers, you'll see in our comments, they're always like, is there soy? Is there soy? Is there soy? And for me, when I hear that question, I'm like, okay, soy is a bean that grows from the earth. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like, you guys are acting like it's something horrible. And that's because they're hearing, oh, genetically modified soy is really bad for your body. And then they're just comparing that with soybean, organic soybean, not understanding that they're two completely different things. Even in terms of soy protein isolate, two completely different types of soy. One that grows from the ground and one that's processed. And so not having that education, and just blanketedly now people are like, oh, soy equals bad. And it's like, okay, that's not the case, and there's so many plant-based companies that make the products with soy, because soy is a great protein to make products with. And then people are like, oh, no, because we heard that soy's bad. Or another example, some of the companies that go into these national chains, and then they're frying the plant-based product in actual animal fat. And so then there's this, oh, wait, you didn't tell us that, it wasn't actually completely vegan. And then when they come to a company like Atlas Monroe, they're like, well, what's the ingredients? Does it have soy? Like, we don't know anymore if it's actually healthier or if it's not. And there's no like truth. The truth is very hidden, I think. And just what Sandra was saying, there's not like this transparency about an education around ingredients, how things are made. And we're definitely missing the whole educational piece. And it sucks that, it's like, oh, we have to explain plants for the basicness of what they are. But I think we need to go back to the basics. Alice Monroe started from raw food ingredients, and that it's all in the name. Atlas means, global. Monroe means pure from the mouth of the river. And I think, a lot of the companies are non-GMO and all natural and organic. And because of this gray area, now people are like, oh, we don't even know if your plant-based meat is even healthier than other products. And it's like, it has no trans fats, no saturated fats, zero cholesterol. Of course it's healthier, most of it's organic. To me, it's like, oh, obviously, but I think that the education definitely needs to be spoken out loud and with pride, because I think that just kind of going back to the basics of, hey, this is food made from the ground. Yes, we've transformed it into something amazing and something that it wasn't to begin with, but it's healthier, it's great, it's for our bodies, it's gonna make us have more longevity. And I just feel like we need to go back to the basics. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, to all of that. And so I think you kind of touched on some of the challenges that the industry has been facing and what's needed. So we've really honed in on education and building up on the benefits of the products that you have. So if you had to summarize it in a nutshell for plant-based meat specifically, how do we stay afloat? So folks think that plant-based meat is dying. How can we say no, there's longevity to plant-based meats? What would be your quick takeaway from each of you on why you think plant-based foods are here to stay? Callie, how about you?
Yeah, so I think we're just getting started. Frankly, I think consumers are becoming more and more aware of the necessity of eating plant-based products and incorporating more plants into their diet. So my takeaway is we are far from dead. We're just getting started. There's new and interesting players entering the scene on the regular basis. I'm rooting for them. As part of our community, I think we need to put more delicious offerings out there and really continue to push forward and expand the space.
Awesome. Sadra.
I think we need to focus on health. I think at its core, this is a better for you category. people are coming to plant-based. People who are not already plant-based for ethical reasons are coming here for health. And so I think we really need to focus on that in our innovation. And we need to focus our innovation more broadly on who's consuming in this category. It's not just white yoga doing women. It is a very diverse group of people who are coming to plant-based, and the segments that are growing the fastest are people of color. So I think that we need to think about that and think about how we're innovating, and we need to be independent. Don't just make another chicken nugget. Don't just make another burger. What can you do that's a little bit different, that sets you apart? And we need to learn. I think the media scrutiny, we can't just throw that aside and put blinders onto it. I think that we need to pay attention to it, and we would really be done a disservice if we just kept patting ourselves on the back and moving forward. I think we need to hear the bits of truth and the grains, the elements of truth that are in some of that scrutiny, and figure out how we can pivot from that and learn from it and utilize that to fuel and dispel any of the naysayers so that they have nothing to scrutinize anymore. We need to be the best that we can be, and just keep moving forward with all the positivity that this community can do.
Yes.
I think that there definitely needs to be more media spotlight on the diversity and on the diverse founders and on the diverse products. I think that there's such a bigger array of products than, plant-based patties, burger patties. There's so many amazing. There's like chorizo and Korean barbecue, and there's just it goes on and I love it. I love going to the store and finding all these new products, or going to expos and trying these products. It's like the best thing. I'm so excited about it. And I think, as we continue to bring this diversity to people, and the education along with the diversity, that will be exponentially great for the vegan community and the growth of plant-based, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think having 3 leaders right here representing more diversity that we need to see in this industry is so important. I want to hear from you all how you think that diversity, equity, inclusion will play a role to even strengthen our category even further. And so as we're coming up on time, I have if we can squeeze that in, I want to ask you, this is a chance to tell your story. So the media has told their story. They've been telling their story. You've been sharing your thoughts today. What is your key takeaway? I'm asking you as you're telling your story. What are you most excited about for plant-based? And what would be one key takeaway you want our audience to hear today before we move to the next session? Sadra.
Oh gosh, I got to go first. Key takeaway. I think the key takeaway is to keep fighting. Like, don't let this discourage you. There is a lot of negativity, but the plant-based category isn't new. Like we've said before, it's been around, but we need to up our game. And I think that's exciting, that we have an opportunity. We have the eyes on us now. And so now it's like, this is the time that's fun. We can play, and we can really innovate, and we can have enjoyment in sharing all of this food that we love and are so passionate about, and really connecting with our consumers. Like, now is the time to build and connect. And that's the best, is when you can bridge those connections and you can bring people together at the table. That's what I want people to take away from here, is that this is the time to connect. Don't let this be divisive. There's 2 major players that are telling a lot of our stories for us. Let that be a challenge, but don't shy away from it. Show them what we can do, show them who you are, tell them who you are, and just be true to yourself, because this is a better for you category, and the consumers are there. They're looking for you. Go out there and find them.
Kali.
Yeah, I think what I'm most excited about in this space is really kind of the increase in diversity and inclusion in this space. I really think as a community, we need to break the stereotype of what a vegan looks like, sounds like, wears. We really need to do a better job of making it a more inclusive environment for people to join, and having more women founders is a big step in that direction. But I encourage us as a community to keep pushing forward and keep pushing that boundary to make our space more inclusive.
Great. And Deborah.
I would just definitely say to up the ante. Like, hey, let's step it up. Whatever it is that you're doing, do it with all your heart. Do it with passion. Do it with kindness, and I think that the work works. I think that for all of us, we've been doing an amazing job. Look at how the world has changed before our eyes. We're all a part of it. So, keep doing what you're doing, and up the ante and go all in, because we're literally at the time, climate is changing, things are happening, and people are looking and listening. So whatever you're doing, do it even better.
Thank you, everyone. Future is plant-based, so thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Another awesome panel. Our first big panel of the day. What did you all think of that? Have you ever seen a group of more incredible CEOs and founders, right? These aren't just the same middle-aged, older white guys. Like, there are really incredible women that are building this industry, and they don't get the spotlight that they deserve. That's exactly why we are here today. I've got another really awesome story that I'm going to bring up in 1 second. But first, I just want to give you a quick reminder. I'm seeing lots and lots of posts that are flying in. So we'll drop in the chat again where you can follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, Twitter. And use the hashtag VWS Pathfinder. Share your thoughts throughout the day, and we will be giving out lots of tickets. Awesome. So we're going to switch it up a notch. We're going to do a spotlight on a really cool company that we want you to know about. And we're going to get into, you ready for it? Pets. Yes. We're going to talk about the future of pet food, because if you added up all of America's dogs and cats in the world, they would be the 5th largest meat consuming group in the world. Yes, 5th. How crazy is that? Tremendous impact on the environment and on animals. So we're excited to bring up our next quick founder spotlight, because animals, let's bring them up.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. It's great to be here. So, as we all know, the race to replace meat is fierce. Currently, there are thousands of companies focused on making plant-based foods for humans. There are over 100 companies working on cultured meat for humans. And there has been almost $6 billion invested into the alternative protein space for humans. So why is because animals focused on cultured meat for pet food? The biggest answer is because cats are obligate carnivores. Unlike humans who are omnivores, cats in the wild really do need to consume another animal in order to obtain all of their essential nutrients. This makes plant-based options niche at best when it comes to feeding our pets, and our cats in particular. People want to feed their pets meat, and when it comes to environmental and humane choices for pet food, cultured meat is the option. Further, scaling cultured meat for pet food is faster and cheaper than it is for human food, as we don't need to worry about creating that three-dimensionality of meat that humans crave. We can grow that meat up in suspension, harvest the material, and immediately blend it with other ingredients to make a wet food pate or kibble. So less cost and time is required to scale cultured meat for pet food. And something that people are just beginning to realize is that meat-based pet food comes with a huge environmental burden. In fact, a recent study showed that more than a quarter of the environmental effects of the entire animal agriculture industry is directly attributed to the foods that people feed their cats and dogs. And the pet food market industry is huge. In 2028, meat-based pet food is expected to be a $136 billion industry. And it's for this reason that because animals is not creating a meat alternative, we are creating meat. We're just growing that meat in an alternative way. In a high-level overview, in a one-time scenario, we take some cells from an animal. We then provide those cells with all of the nutrients they need to grow and survive outside of the animal. And then in the 2.5 years it takes to birth, raise, and slaughter a cow for meat, we can grow the same amount of meat in a 2.5-week process. So I'm Rebecca, a senior scientist and research communications lead at Because Animals. I've spent about a decade working with stem cells, and I'm incredibly excited to be applying my scientific training to taking animals out of the supply chain. I'm also very, very proud to represent a company that is both female-led by our CEO and co-founder, Dr. Shannon Falconer, and female-dominant in terms of its numbers, with the majority of us females on the team being scientists. Just last week, in fact, our veterinarian scientist Rupal accepted our Best Startup Product Award in Germany, representing us in what can be a very male-dominated field. So as for our science, there are a few key points that I'd like to highlight. In terms of our cell culture media, we've eliminated all animal ingredients, including fetal bovine serum, and dropped our costs by over an order of magnitude. We've also derived over 40 of our own proprietary pluripotent stem cell lines. These are cell lines that do not contain any genetic mutations or modifications, but naturally grow indefinitely and can develop into any kind of cell type, whether it's fat, muscle, or organ tissue, all of which are important for pet food. And we've developed our own artificial intelligence platform called Clairvoyant, or Claire for short. With Claire, we're taking a page out of the pharmaceutical industry's book, where the introduction of AI a decade ago was able to decrease the cost and time of bringing a drug to market by 70%. So today we're leveraging the same power with our cultured meat development. We're aggressively working towards launching our first product in early 2024, which will be our Harmless Hunt mouse snacks for cats. With this, because animals will provide the world's first cultured meat product for pets made with cultured mouse, the ancestral diet of the cat. And with that, I'd like to thank you for listening and really encourage you to reach out to either myself or Shannon with any questions. Thank you so much.
So when I said that we truly are diving into all things animal-free innovation, I wasn't kidding. You know, there's so many conversations going on about plant-based meats, but what are all the other ways that animals are currently used in the supply chain? We actually will have many more speakers that'll be coming up showing other novel uses and new innovations to save animals, including fashion and many more. So what I am excited for next is we have another top tier panel. We are going to dive a little bit more into the science. So we talked about the plant-based meats, but now Rebecca was a great segue to our next segment, which will be the future of animal science and animal-free protein. What are all of the incredible ways that we are going to be able to eliminate traditional meat from the world? It's a $1 trillion industry, and there are so many different approaches to doing that. So I'm going to turn it over to Jasmine Devou, who is going to join us and host our next panel conversation. Very excited about what she has to say and all the things going on across Europe and Asia and North America and even Africa we'll hear later today. Lots to be excited about. Let's turn it over.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny. That was really exciting. And I'm so excited also to moderate this panel today. We've got a really great list of speakers comprising super smart and empowering change makers, Irina Gary of Change Foods, Nieves Martinez Marshall of Novel Foods, and Anne-Sophie Mergen of Micromeat. And they'll be introducing themselves in just a moment. My name is Jasmine Devou, and I'm the Vice President of Profit International, a food awareness organization working to transform the global food system by replacing animal-based products with plant-based and cultured alternatives. And today we'll hear a bit more about why we need to shift to a more sustainable food system and how we can get there. But first, I'd like to introduce you to my amazing panelists. Irina, do you want to go first?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Irina Gary. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Change Foods, and we are making dairy animal-free by using precision fermentation process.
Okay, fantastic. Nieves?
Hello, my name is Nieves, and I am CEO at Novel Farms. And we're a food tech company based in Berkeley, and we make whole cuts of cultivated meat, in particular pork.
Great, thank you. And Sophie?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Anne-Sophie, and I'm the founder and CEO of Micromeat. At Micromeat, we also work on cultivated meat, but specifically more on technologies to make it scalable. So for other companies. And
great, very diverse and very interesting. Let me just start with the first question. Irina, I've seen your passionate and very informative LinkedIn posts about the range of food system topics. And why are you educating and inspiring your followers to change?
I find that a lot of consumers today are quite keenly aware of climate change happening around us. But I find that not many people actually connect the dots between food and climate. And so I find that as passionate and as much as we know about what's happening in the world, that connection is missing. So just maybe for this audience, I wanted to introduce just a few kind of key statistics of what it takes to feed the 8 billion people that we have on the planet today, because of the amount of impact that it has on our climate. So, just think about, we have 8 billion people and all of them are eating daily. And what it takes today is about half of our ice-free land on the planet is already dedicated to agriculture. And agriculture is today consuming 70% of our freshwater uses. And unfortunately, that's having an impact on the planet, with being the leading driver of biodiversity loss. Today, 94% of all biomass on the planet is made up of humans and the animals we raise to feed ourselves. And we are basically living through the 6th great extinction of wildlife on the planet today, which is devastating to our ecosystems. A lot of that is driven by the fact that we farm animals for food. And I know it seems counterintuitive because humans have been consuming animals for basically integrated with our history. However, when we look at the scale and scope of animal agriculture alone, right now we raise and slaughter about 90 billion land animals in the world to feed the planet. And the land mass that animal agriculture requires is about 1/3 of the earth. So we take the land mass the size of North and South America combined in order just to raise the animals for food. Obviously, those are staggering numbers, and they are having a tremendous impact on the planet and all of these biodiversity systems. And the unfortunate fact is meat and dairy consumption is actually increasing dramatically as we go, despite the fact that these numbers are so impactful. Meat consumption has increased more than 5 times in the last 50 years. Dairy consumption has more than doubled. And unfortunately, with the rising middle class in developing countries and in Asia, there is no end in sight to this. And we're basically finding ourselves on this collision course with nature. And we are no longer able to really physically supply the amount of food that the growing global population needs in order to feed humans the way we've been doing in the past. And so I feel like we find ourselves on this panel today talking about, okay, what are the options? What can we do? Because going with the status quo is just not going to be possible.
And yeah, very, very important figures and facts and stories, of course, of individual suffering and global collapse of all sorts of systems. But we still have a chance to change this, and there's several solutions. And Nieves, I wonder, from your perspective and your scientific background, what would you suggest as alternatives, alternative proteins, alternative food systems?
Yes, so well, basically, we all know about plant-based products. They're already in the market, and they're very important for for people to have an option. Then, in addition to plant-based products, there's also cultivated meat, which is not yet at the grocery store, at least everywhere except for Singapore. And cultivated meat is another option that we will have in the future. So basically, cultivated meat, it relies on the use of animal cells to produce meat that will have the texture and the mouthfeel and the taste of the meat we already know. And so now there are dozens of companies in the world tackling this problem and like scaling up to be able to produce enough cultivated meat to start launching at and commercializing. However, there are several hurdles, so for instance, one is the regulatory, getting regulatory approval from the USDA and FDA, and also another problem will be like kind of like educating the consumer enough so that they don't see cultivated meat as a some like franken meat, as some people call it, right? Like we have to emphasize how we're growing cells in a clean environment, and this meat won't have the nasty pathogens that are they arise when having animals in such small spaces like they do in industrial farming and other benefits. So it will be our job to really transmit and educate and like kind of explain how do we do the magic. Like some people is like, but how does it work? It's like, imagine a tomato, take some seeds, and then you grow a new plant. Well, kind of like similar to that.
Great, yeah, thank you. That makes sense. And in terms of educating people, using the right language and visuals is so important, isn't it? We've just at ProVeg done a report on what people expect and what they like and what is off-putting to them, and any kind of connection that's too much connected to the lab is not so positive. Whereas if you focus on the benefits and, as you said, the clean label aspects and all these things, then people are much more interested in trying these products. So it's very important that we focus on kind of a real product, something that people are familiar with. And Anne-Sophie, from your perspective, you're supplying other people in the industry with kind of technology, and how does that work? Could you explain a bit more?
Sure. So cultivated meat, as Nieves just mentioned, is generally would be great to have it because it would literally exactly replace traditional meat, but it's just grown in a bioreactor. So basically the bioreactor is the new cow, right? But the problem is a little bit that right now, even if there were already the regulatory approval and acceptance from people to want to eat it, there is still a problem of that cultivated meat companies right now could not really scale up the production to levels that would really make an impact and really replace traditional meat to a significant level. And the problem is that the technology that cultivated meat companies are using is not really efficient in producing cultivated meat at this point. And the reason for that is a little bit that cultivated meat companies have adopted the technologies from biopharma, which was developed for a completely different end product scale and cost target. And so what we are doing is we try to develop technologies that are more purpose-built for cultivated meat with the scale of cultivated meat in mind from the beginning or in the design process, and really make the technology much more efficient, produce higher yields, bring the costs down from a bioprocessing point of view, and really help the scalability of making cultivated meat so that as soon as the regulatory hurdles are coming down, that we can really start scaling big.
Great, yeah, thank you for that insight. That's really important. And to what extent is the kind of experience from mycoprotein relevant? Is that at all relevant, or is it a completely different technology?
Mycoprotein, in our case, we are really focusing on cultivated meat, so growing animal cells in bioreactors. Our technology could potentially be also applicable to for certain applications in precision fermentation or fermentation of other microbes that are not animal eukaryotic cells. But we are more focusing on the animal cells.
Right, yeah, thank you. And Irina, from your perspective, how do you go about growing the business and educating people beyond the kind of social media and your customers?
Yeah. Well, I think where we need to start with people is to, establish the problem, right? I've just rattled off a bunch of statistics that are quite startling. They're quite scary. And usually I find that when you confront people with that, there is this disconnect between, well, what do you mean it's this bad, right? Like, we've been eating meat forever, and I drive by a field and I see a cow and all seems fine, right? And I think we first need to help people learn and understand that, yes, while that picture, of a happy cow in a field may be something that you have in your mind, it is so far removed from reality. And when you multiply farming these animals at the scale and scope in which we do it, and the amount of crops that we grow, not just grass, but crops that we grow to feed them, is tremendous, right? That starts to sink in. And when it starts to sink in, the reaction, unless you've already been vegan and you're kind of, yes, let's, eat fewer animals, the reaction is usually, God, like, okay, but we love eating meat and dairy, right? It's part of our culture. It's part of what we do. And so there's this massive disconnect that people experience. And I find that coming at them with information from kind of an empathetic place is really, really important. And not really talking about the technology, like it's cool, it's awesome that we can, create dairy and meat, without the animals. But I think the first place to meet people as far as driving adoption of these new foods is actually come at it from a human perspective and to say, I know this has been part of your history and my history, and that's where we come from, but we have this massive problem. And we have options. I like to talk about it in terms of options. You could absolutely eat a whole food plant-based diet. You can reduce your meat and dairy consumption. You have plant-based option. And now we have this exciting new slew of technologies, right? Exciting options. Again, is it cultivated meat? Is it fermentation-based meat or dairy products? And what do they bring? And so talking about the benefit, I think, is really, really important when you pair it up with kind of this new information about the scary aspects of our food. And what I like to talk about is how similar it is, right? That it's not just an alternative, that these technologies, the cultivated meat and the precision fermentation-based dairy, are the exact same product, just made in a different way. So it is more similar to the solar transition than it is, to others where you literally have the same exact product. So whether it's meat or dairy, it's just made through a different technology that is more efficient and more sustainable. And when you put it to people that way, it feels less like a ask of sacrifice, right? To not eat your favorite foods, to not participate in your cultural traditions, but instead the ask becomes to consider an option of alternatives. And different people will make different decisions based on their preferences, but to present it as an array of exciting options, I think, is how I think of it. And I feel like we will be more successful doing it that way and not kind of being dogmatic and pushing technology on people.
Yeah, absolutely, because everyone is different, right, with different preferences and different motivation. So I think if we have all these options available, then we can appeal to lots of people. I'm just coming back to the fact that we need scalability and all of that to increase all the output. I found from a report last week from the biotech forecast that the global cultured meat market is estimated to reach $3.4 billion with an annual growth rate of 44% from 2022 to 2030. So that's staggering. It's probably bigger than the plant-based market growth, I would say. And how can this kind of be used, this growth, to really scale up? And where do you see the money going? Is it research and innovation, or is it equipment or technology know-how, or what do we need to kind of train the next generation of people to all go into this field? What do we need to do? Anne-Sophie?
Okay, many aspects to that question. So yeah, I think the enormous growth is happening because right now it's basically not sold yet. So as soon as we can start selling it, there's going to be an enormous growth. And there's so many things that we still need. Just building the sheer capacity to produce this meat is, for example, a major challenge. I think right now the world has, in total, the whole world has about 50 million liters of bioreactor volume capacity, and I think about 10 million liters of that are used for eukaryotic, so like animal cell culture. And for making meat, we would need, I don't know, hundreds of millions of liters to build. So, do that what we have right now in the entire world times 10, and we're still not producing enough meat to feed everybody. So just that, for example, is going to need a lot of effort and capital injection. And then, of course, the workforce to run all of these bioreactors is going to be needed. Right now, bioprocess engineers are very asked for in this industry. But yeah, like there's so many, I could go on a lot.
Yeah,
But
thank
I
you
think
so
the
much.
capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that gives us a bit of an idea about the scale of growth. And Nieves, from your point of view, what would you say to that question?
Yeah, I will add a little detail on that. That not only we need many more bioreactors, we also need them to be ultra efficient. So as Anne-Sophie said before, like people have borrowed the bioreactors that are used for biomedical applications and try to make it work for cellular agriculture. And turns out like to make 1 kilogram of meat, these bioreactors use like hundreds of liters of media, right? So that's like a lot, very big bioreactors, and also media is extremely expensive. So what we suggest, like what the approach we're trying to do at Novel Farms is like redesigning these bioreactors to for the the production of our cultivated meat, which is going to be structured like whole cuts. So we need to customize them anyways. But what we want to do is really like make them much more compact, like non instead of needing like hundreds of liters of media and huge bioreactors, make them like much more, like let's say use 5 liters to make 1 kilogram. That way the capital needed to produce a pilot plant will be much, much less. So that's one aspect that I wanted to bring attention to as well.
And Jasmine, I would add as well that right now our industry is largely funded by venture capital, right? The latest data I saw from GFI, about $12 billion total of invested capital has come into the industry between plant-based and cultivated and fermentation, but it's come mostly from venture capital. And if you look at how we're tackling other aspects of climate change, there's actually a massive public-private partnership taking place on the aviation sector, cement, transportation, energy, etc. And I feel like food has largely been missing from that conversation at a policy level. And that's incredibly important to do, because as passionate and as capable as the founders here are and as supportive as the venture capital industry has been, the undertaking at planetary scale is massive, right? And animal agriculture has been with us for millennia. It had time to scale, to be optimized, to be invested in. To date, we're still investing billions of dollars of government funds in agricultural subsidies. A lot of that is going to animal agriculture. And I would love to start seeing us turn the tide on public funding conversation. BCG recently did an analysis and found that actually investing, the return on invested capital is actually 3 times higher in the plant-based space than in any other kind of climate abatement technologies. And that's incredible, right? The impact for the capital is massive. The need is massive. So yes, we need to build infrastructure, but I also feel like we need to seek much greater support and investment from government bodies than we're seeing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are really good points. And again, for example, a European perspective, we're part of the European Alliance for Plant-Based Foods, and we're calling on the European Commission to increase the funding for both plant-based and cellular agriculture, because it doesn't really relate to the amounts of money that goes to animal agriculture. And similarly,
Sorry. No, I was going to say on the positive side, right? So one is the need side, the other one is what's the benefit. And another study I saw, I believe it was by BCG as well, they said that if we just create an 8% share of meat consumption with these new technologies, so plant-based, cultivated, etc., the climate benefit is basically the same as decarbonizing 95% of the aviation sector. So if you think about, we can all stop flying, which is not feasible, or we can just replace 8%, right? So I know the goal is massive, and ideally we would replace more than that, but just 8% gives us such a tremendous benefit that is unachievable in other categories. And I feel like that's another part of the conversation that we need to have louder.
Yeah, absolutely. And the latest study from Chu et al. In 2021, a year ago, said that 20% of the greenhouse gas emissions are caused by livestock. So that's something that people don't really realize, I think. And this is why, for example, ProVeg and other organizations are coming together at COP in Egypt. And for the first time, we'll have not just one, but 3 food pavilions. And that's really amazing because in the past 26 years, there has never been much debate or no kind of formal acknowledgement of food policy. And now there are 3 pavilions just focusing on food systems and change. So we're really excited to be there and to host different companies and organizations talking about this. And youth voices are very important too. Talking about youth and kind of getting talent into the organizations. And do you have any tips for how to excite new students to get into the field, or what do you have any thoughts on that?
Was that me? Yeah, actually, I think the new generation is quite excited about this. There's a lot of students and universities that are building groups around alternative proteins and are getting more aware. The younger generation generally is more aware of the problems and also the problems that are coming from the food system. I think what would be actually also very important is to get more experienced people from other industries to jump over to these really big challenges that have already a lot of experience, not only students. Of course, the students are super important for the future, but right now also more experienced talent would be great to jump over.
From perhaps the other sectors like biomedical, that like yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And others.
Processing traditionally,
yeah,
etc.
Yeah, great. And Nieves, I'm very curious about the pork product that you're developing. How is the taste? Is that similar or a bit different from animal pork?
So we showcased a pork prototype last August. And then this pork prototype had marbling, which is something that not many people are able to kind of add marbling. So the normally fats are the was the word I want to say, like hold the flavor, because the aromatic compounds and stuff like that. So most of the flavor came from the fats. And as for the meat, we're still fine tuning. It was not very intense pork flavor, but we're working on that. We will have tastings in a couple months or so. We will start having tasting because it takes a little bit to kind of grow these little pieces, right? But yeah, I remember we also did a chicken prototype, and the smell and everything was very intense. It was even the meat, which is like actually not what holds the flavors, was like smell like chicken. So it was very like we were very impressed by that. So yeah. But I have to say, like, the most important thing will be the texture. So with our process, what we are very adamant on is on getting myofibers, or like muscle fibers, so that the texture is exactly the same. So at the microscopic level, we've seen like the myofibers forming like kind of like strings, and now we're working on getting the whole meat like to the level of having all fibers. So that will show the texture of real meat.
That sounds very challenging, because so far people have just done the kind of more granular level, I think, but not the whole cut. And yeah, I'm very curious to see how that develops in the next few months.
Yes, I'll let everyone know when the time comes for the tastings and show everything.
Absolutely. And just a last question, or maybe an open question. Is there anything you want to share with the audience? Irina, start with you.
Sure. If I leave you with one thought, is that to me, we have obviously a big problem on our hands, right? But I think the future is exciting because we have a lot of people who really want to make a difference. And that's both in terms of people coming into the space and working on these exciting new technologies, but also people who just choose to vote with their choices every single day, right? Whether it's skipping a meat dish one day a week, multiple days a week, whatever you can do, it's amazing. If you can embrace plant-based foods, it's incredible. If you're not quite there yet, obviously, animal-free dairy is coming, cultivated meat is coming, so better choices, I think, are on the horizon, and that leaves me hopeful.
Yeah, good words to end with. But so, Sophia, what would you say as a final message?
I don't know, like just try to innovate, like that everybody wants to innovate to come into the space so that we can really tackle this enormous challenge. There's still so much to do and bring into.
Great, thank you. And Niels?
Yeah, we'll just want to end the conversation saying that yes, we can remind people of all the benefits of the alternative proteins and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be about the cost and the taste. So we're just gonna, just work hard to get the something that they will not be able to tell the difference and be fully, converted. So that's I'm very excited about that part, and really like the people would not be able to tell the difference, and then we wouldn't be needed to say, remind them of the climate change and stuff like that. Just say and enjoy.
Enjoy, yes. And what do you think is more important, the taste or the price, or both equally?
uh I would say, of course, hang on, both, but the taste is and the texture is going to be really, really. I mean, the people who will be able to afford it, then will do it if they like it, right? And the cost is something that will go down anyways, and so I'm not so much worried about the cost. More worried about really replicating the real thing.
Yeah, I think in the past maybe the texture and the mouthfeel haven't really been taken into account enough when we developed alternative proteins, and now that's becoming much more important and possible to do, I think. So yeah, thank you so much, all three of you. I think it's been fascinating to learn a bit more about the different companies and the opportunities that we have. And I think today's presentations and panels will be very inspiring to many, to students as well as investors, a whole broad audience who've tuned in today. And also I'm looking forward to hearing what other people have to say. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Was that the first time that any of you have learned about cultivated and precision fermentation? So give me a thumbs up if you are first time learning, or a heart if you already know everything about the space. Let's see it. Okay. We've got a good mix of you. Great. Well, I'm hoping that today is providing a lot of very interesting and innovative information. This is the cutting edge. These are the women that are on the ground every single day working to save the planet and change the food system. Without these women, I don't know where we would be. And one of those incredible women is going to be joining me up on stage. I would love to welcome to the stage Liron Nimrodi, my great friend, the CEO and founder of Zero Egg. And also, Liron, she is featured in The Future of Food is Female. How are you?
Hi, Jenny. Very good. How are you?
Everything is going off without a hitch. These things are always a marathon endeavor because we're joining women from 6 continents today.
Yeah. Nerve-wracking, but it
Right?
looks from here. It looks amazing.
Awesome. We're praying to the Wi-Fi gods. Tell everybody where you're joining from.
Where I'm joining from? Right now?
Yeah, where are you right now?
Oh, so I'm in Israel, located in Israel. So I'm connecting from my home.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we are excited to chat today. Liron has joined us before in past Pathfinders. So for anybody that has watched any of our past summits and competitions, you may have heard a little bit about Zero Egg already. But I'd love for you to share with the audience a little bit about what you're building and why.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Zero Egg, and we developed a plant-based egg that has really the functionality, taste, and texture of a real egg. So you can make breakfast, scrambled omelet, and all the way to baked goods and sauces. So we are selling for the last year in the food service channel in the US, and planning our steps into retail. in late 23, beginning of 24.
So we have talked a lot about meat, but why eggs?
I think, I mean, I believe in plant-based foods. I'm eating. That's my diet. So, and I think we need everything. So, eggs is just an essential part of everything that we eat. If you think about it, it's in your breakfast, lunch, dinner. And we're bringing the revolution in that channel, which is today really a white space. There are not a lot of players. The market share is really of alternatives is really low. So that's really an opportunity for a company like us to really establish the category.
It's funny you say that because, in our prior panel, Sadra was talking about the importance of teaching people about the applications of how to use these plant-based products. And, she actually referenced Just Egg, another plant-based egg company. Most people don't realize, but Just Egg, up until very recently, with folks like yourself, kind of had the entire category. So what has it been like building a category like plant-based eggs that's quite a bit newer than anything like, say, plant-based milks, which have been around for decades, and plant-based meats, obviously, that have been around for a little while as well?
Yeah, so Just is the dominant player for a few years in the market. But actually plant-based breakfast is really, it's new. So we are really pioneering this category, which is not an easy task to do. But our sales team wakes up every morning and go and pitch why to use plant-based eggs. And the amazing thing is to come to customers like the Grey Dog in New York that started using zero egg about 6 months ago, and says that the category, the vegetarian sales grew from 10% to 25% because he added the plant-based breakfast. Yeah, and one of the dishes is a zero egg burrito. We are mentioned on his menu, and that's the number 3 bestseller, and 16% of his sales. So we see that there is a demand. There is a demand for in restaurants. When we come to, I go a lot to see customers. We are focusing also on college universities because we feel that the consumers there, they're really the young generation. They are really they are the most accurate consumers. So chefs in college universities, they say that 25% of students, they enter the dining room and they say, okay, what's plant-based here? So yeah, we are really excited from the opportunity, and we are paving the way.
So 25% of university students are looking for plant-based options?
Yes. And when we bring zero egg, unlike the meat or the milk, they are able to open their menu. So they're starting to make scrambled and quiche and frittata and desserts and cakes, cookies. So we are actually like a platform to create like this very a lot of varieties for them.
Yeah, eggs are in a lot, like a lot. And I think it's like a third of the egg market is liquid egg too, right? Or something close to that.
The liquid egg, especially in the US, is it's quite a big category. And also it's a premium category. So 30% of sales are cage-free. So it's a premiumized category.
Wow. Okay. So I would love to share. So you and I of course, have had many chats about this and how you built this company and why you're building this company. But for folks that might not be familiar with your work, can you explain to everybody, particularly the would-be founders and entrepreneurs, a lot of women and men that are joining today thinking like, maybe I can go out and build something. What inspired you to start the company?
I think that it starts from like the early childhood. I grew up in a countryside, in a small village in Israel. I was surrounded by chickens and sheep and cows. And so it was very pastoral and beautiful. But when I walked to the school every day, I would pass on some warehouse and I just heard chicken squawks. And I just didn't understand what is it. And then I understand that, like, okay, my parents told me that's why we need that to eat. So that's the chicken. And then I would go to the dairy farmer to get milk at night. So I come with a jug. And then I saw like the cows with these huge udders. And I didn't understand why is that? So my father said, okay, we're given hormones and antibiotics, so you will have a lot of milk. So that was a dissonance. And then when I later on, when I studied, I went to study a food engineer, and I become product development, worked in product development, and saw the food industries from behind the scenes. And then I saw the processes and the additives and what we are eating, which is really not good for us. So later on, it's like a journey in life. I got into a point that I knew that what I want to do is to impact the way we eat and to bring healthier, better, ethical, environmental food globally. And that's what inspired me. And that's what makes me take this very difficult role and go every day to make this dream come true. And yeah, that's a life journey.
I mean, Liron, that's a mic drop right there. I don't have a crowd to clap for you, but we do have some virtual emojis. I think that is just such an incredible way to tie what your youth and what you do for a living. I, interestingly enough, also have now learned, now that I'm an adult, that many of the farms that I grew up around, also in a small town, they actually are factory farms as well. And I had no idea. I thought that, like, honestly, I thought that giant sheds, like windowless sheds where you can't put the window down for 10 minutes because the smell is so terrible. I thought, oh, that's just the way you make eggs. I mean, I had no idea. Growing up around that, you don't realize, like, wow, this is all around us and it's happening, right?
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah.
No, and the fact that we grew on that, it doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. So we need to change 100%. It.
Yep, we can make it better for the next generation. I want to talk about, and I've got here actually a quote from you in the book, but I'd love for you to kind of share, what has your experience been like as a woman founder in the industry? You had a quote you actually told me in the book. I'm going to read it out loud. In my 20s, I tried to hide the fact that I'm a woman. In my 30s, I thought if I ignored it, I would be equal. But now in my 40s, I celebrate it. I say, go with who you are. Don't try and act differently. Don't apologize. Don't underestimate. Take what you have and go and seize your opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how has that experience been, being a mother, being a woman founder?
I mean, I'm very mission driven. So for me, I don't see anything but, where I want to go. But being honest, being a female founder, a woman in this world is not easy. And I think as a founder of someone who is leading a company, what I'm facing a lot is really this not equal approach towards women. There is something that the feeling that a man can do is more brave, or it has more guts, and you can trust him more. So this feeling is something that is there all the time, and I think that's why, and you mentioned it a lot, why 3% of investments are going to men and not to female founders. I mean, I think, and it's harder also for us because we are mothers, and no matter what and how equal it is, there is a burden of being a mother and holding a home, and also taking care of your career. So that's like a double than what men needs to handle. But I think that, I mean, it's harder for us, but this is something that we need to, I mean, what you're doing, Jenny, is really bringing it to the world, putting it on the table, just to say to anyone that you can do it. You just need to really want it and go after what you want.
I love that. I mean, that's the whole point of why we do the summit like today, because I want to create access to this industry for women and men all around the world that otherwise, maybe they didn't grow up in a big city with parents that are, white collar jobs and entrepreneurs themselves or CEOs. I know that you and I both certainly didn't. And it's really hard. That networking gap is really hard. I'm curious, do you have any tips of how to bridge that networking gap if you don't know anybody in this space, like how you can break into it?
I'll tell you what I think our advantages as women that are not like men is that we're really open and sharing and not afraid to show our vulnerability and to ask for help and being authentic. And I think that's our advantage, and we should use it. So just go and find your mentor and find the people that can help you and that can teach you, and just get all the help that you need in order to achieve your goals. That's what I did. I really paved my way into this where I am today, and I think just taking the female advantages and just use them.
What do you wish you had known then that you know now?
I think I'm learning a new thing every day, since this is a role that you just keep evolving. But if there is one thing that I wish I knew, and that like the most important one, is really to choose the people around you that are, or choose the people according to character, the ones that are positive, that always see forward, that always see the what we can do and what we can't do. And if you choose them in everything, in employees, even as investors, I think that's super important. I think that one of the things that I learned on my experience is when you are when you're choosing someone because he has experience, let's say an employee, the right experience, the right background, but not the right personality, then that's one of the things that I learned, that far and foremost personality of the people around you.
So for all the folks that are listening today that are maybe plant-based or vegan themselves in their personal life, but their career is not based on it, and they want to get into something like this, what tip would you give to them? And do you actually think saying, being vegan or plant-based is an advantage, like on a resume or in an interview?
I don't think it's an advantage. What I think is an advantage, and that's when I interview people, and the people that are in Zero Egg, is the passion. It's the person's passion, and connecting to the company vision and mission, and want to do something great together and bring that passion. I think that's what company like us, that's what we are looking for. We are looking for the people that nothing will break them, and will just want to make it happen with us. Yeah.
It's going to be an intense next few years for everybody in this space, not just plant-based, but we need to have a lot of tenacity, and we need to have a lot of grit. And I'm really glad we were able to have today's chat. And I think going into the rest of today's summit, this is a really important thing to hold on to, is that even though things are going to get difficult out there in the market for what could be months or years, hold the truth of what you know.
Exactly.
Hold the truth of what you know needs to happen to the food system, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Go to the core.
Well,
yeah.
Exactly. Liron, we could chat for hours. I hope to see you again soon in person. But we will let you go to sleep soon. I know it is getting late over in Tel Aviv. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny.
Awesome. Well, we'll say goodbye to Liron, and let's welcome up our next stage, the Future of Foodservice. I'm going to hand this over to Elena, who's joining us from Deliveroo, doing some of the most amazing stuff in the plant-based category. Let's welcome them up.
Hello, everybody. We are waiting for one more panelist, I believe, Hannah. But in the meantime, I'll just say hello. I hope everyone is having a wonderful event and day. My name is Elena Devis. I will be hosting this panel. I've got very amazing women with me today. Reina Montenegro, who is chef and owner at Chef Reina, and Chanel Goodson, who is chef and owner at Vegan AF. We also have Hannah, hopefully, joining us, who is founder and CEO at OGS. We'll give it a couple of seconds until she hopefully joins us. If not, we'll kick off without her. But in the meantime, I'll just say, echoing what everyone has been saying today, I think we're going through a lot at the moment as a society and as an industry. And in times of uncertainty, there's nothing quite like community experience and female energy to really give us that inspiration and kindness we need to get to where we need to get this industry to in the next few years. So thank you so much to Jenny and the whole team for organizing this. It's awesome to be able to connect with so many amazing women and hearing so many inspiring stories and invaluable insights. Reina, Chanel, how are you doing? Reina?
Good, really good. Thank you so much for having me. I've been such a fan of this group of women for so long, and being here, I feel like it's a surreal experience. So thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks for being here. Chanel, how are you?
I'm great. Like, I'm a big fan. So just to be here and be in this space with other amazing women, it just feels very rewarding. It's an honor for me to actually really be able to be here.
I totally agree. It's amazing to be here. Let's start with a round of intros. Hopefully we get Hannah to join us as well, but if not, we'll do it without her. Reina, did you want to start?
Sure. I guess I'm introducing myself. My name is Reina. I'm the chef and owner of Chef Reina. I have owned quite a few restaurants in the last 10 years. Three of them closed during the pandemic. I consolidated my restaurants. They were called Nick's. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, specializing in vegan Filipino food. And now I consolidated everything and came out as Chef Reina in 2021. And now we are in Brisbane, California, right one exit out of the San Francisco airport. And I guess there's a link there about me. But yeah, I specialize in vegan Filipino food, but not just that. I also do veganize a lot of other cuisines. I call myself a world cuisine chef. So that's what I am.
Amazing. Have you always been vegan, or what's your personal story?
No, I turned vegan. No. I was a very heavy meat eating Filipino woman. I used to be a pork lover. And so when I turned vegan for health reasons in 2016, I decided to make it my mission that I will not miss out on any of my childhood favorites as a Filipina. And you know what? I got so much heat from a lot of my fellow Filipinos that they were saying that I'm an abomination to my culture. They said that being Filipino and being vegan is an oxymoron. So I've heard it all and I love it. I welcome it. Let's go. And I definitely that really challenged me into perfecting my skill and my passion for really creating really good Filipino food and just good food in general. Sarah or Sadra, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but what you said today really resonated with me, and I started clapping by myself in my living room when I heard you say that we need to do better. And I feel like I cannot stand mediocre food, and as a chef, I feel like we all really need to step it up. That's what she said. We can't just, serve something. And for me, my mission is serving food is my culinary activism. I don't go out there and do what other, bless you guys' hearts, that you go out there and you do activism and you stand in front of the grocery stores and the meat department, and I commend you, but for me, I don't want to say anything. I just want to give you food that I've created, that I have worked months and years for to perfect, and and convince you that way. So I'm proud to say that from 60% of my customers when I first opened in 2017 were not vegan. Now it's about
Right.
80% of them are not vegan, but they come because they love the food. So I feel like, we really just need to step it up. And I know there's a lot of people here that they have products and all this. The future is cultivated meat. I mean, let's not knock those people, because, maybe if it's not for you, then, have your whole foods plant-based food. If it's soy is not for you, then get some, it should be like a collective, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, but it should be a collective.
No, but it's great.
It should be a collective thing that we should all support each other, in the vegan plant-based community, and not knock each other because it's not good for you, yeah. So I basically, they call me the gateway of the gateway for people that are having a hard time transitioning from a non-vegan diet to a vegan diet, especially in my culture where everything is meat based. Even a vegetable dish will have a meat base. So I'm trying to help them, move to the vegan by giving them, the food that
Good food.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything you're saying really resonates with me. Firstly, because I'm from Spain as well, which is a very
My father's from Spain. My father's from Spain. So yeah, I'm some Spanish blood.
Yeah, but it's exactly the same. It's like ultimately food is emotional, and if you can serve really great plant-based food to people, there's nothing that will get them over the line, or at least to understand where you're coming from, better than good food, right? But I'm very glad to see Hannah was able to join us. I did a very quick intro about you, but I would love for you to introduce yourself and your company if you could. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course, no worries. Sorry, a few technical issues there. So hi everyone, my name's Hannah Carter. I'm one of the founders here at OGS. We have a very clear mission to remove hidden egg from the supply chain. And so we sort of approach it in two ways. One, we provide delicious products on the shelf in a grocery store, but we're actually working to go upstream. And instead of waiting for people to change their mind at the point in which they're in a supermarket and make different decisions, or at the point at which they're in a restaurant, we actually want to go upstream and work with the factories and work with the manufacturers to remove egg in the first place. And where it's a real functional ingredient and it's not even got nutritional content values there, is really where we work as a business. So big goals, big ambitions to remove hidden egg, but that's what we're all about. So we've been going about 4 years now in the UK. So we have a plant-based bakery range, and we have a full spectrum of plant-based egg, from all the way through foaming, emulsification, binding, gelling, scrambling, etc. So
I've tried it myself, and I know it's amazing. So well done.
Hi.
Hello. Chanel, glad to see that you're back as well, just in time to do your own personal and business intro.
Awesome. Yeah, Wi-Fi is very up and down these days. But I run a vegan street food concept in Los Angeles called Vegan AF. And my whole reason for kind of really starting this concept, I wanted to be innovative. I wanted people to see a different side of vegan food. Typically, when you hear the term street food, you don't really associate the word vegan to it. And I find that a lot of customers, they want to kind of explore veganism, but it's like all the food is the same. All the food have the same variety. So I started a concept that's completely street food based, and it's been a massive success here in Los Angeles. It's a bunch of fun, and that's it about me.
Amazing. I haven't had the pleasure to try it, but I've seen some photos on Instagram and it looks delish. So amazing. Well, I haven't introduced myself, but hi everyone. I head the vegan category at Deliveroo, which is one of the largest food delivery companies in the world. We are based in the UK, but have presence in 12 other countries internationally. And I'm very proud of working at Deliveroo because I think what really sets us apart is the fact that everyone is super passionate about food, and everyone working at Deliveroo, in my case, plant-based food, but the reason we created my role, which I think is super unique in the food delivery industry, because ultimately we're tech companies, right? But we really do care about food and really want to show our consumers that we not only get food, but also diets and lifestyles. I think is what we're all working towards here. So in the past 3 years, there's been an incredible rise for demand of demand for vegan food. And we decided to create this role to really understand what consumers are saying and why they're making these choices, whether it's sustainability, animal welfare, health, or all of the above. And it's been amazing to watch the progression of the industry from the inside. But the first question, Hannah, I'm going to address to you, which is, speaking about the why, do you believe consumers are prioritizing sustainability and ethics when it comes to their food choices? And specifically, do you think there are differences when it comes to ordering in or eating out or buying at the grocery store?
So to answer your first question, yes, I do, but at the same time, given the climate we're in, it depends. And I think when we talk about consumers, we have to segment them because there's a whole group of people. If you think of a classic bell curve, there's a whole group of people who simply don't care. And there's a whole group of people who would die on their sword to make sure that under no circumstances would they eat anything, that does any harm to the planet and are in a self-contained home life where they farm for themselves, and everybody in between. But I think what's happening with the younger generation and, with the sort of positive and negative that we have around social media is people are more educated and people have a greater understanding of the impact of their food. And so fundamentally, yes, people are making more informed choices. But unfortunately, still, because of the economies of scale that we have around plant-based food, they're still more expensive. And so whether we like it or not, it is a privilege to care about the environment, because you haven't got running 3 jobs. You haven't got to worry about how you're going to get food on the table, how you're going to pay the electricity bills. The electricity poverty and heating poverty we're going to see over the next winters globally is phenomenal. So yes, people do care. And when they have the mental capacity to care, they make better choices. But the younger generation are influencing those choices too. 1 in 4 households here in the UK have a plant-based milk in their fridge now. And that's being driven by the educated, informed younger generation who are forcing their parents to put that in the cupboard, etc. So yes, people do care, but I think we're going to see that slow down a little as the economic challenges that come with that, which we can't change. And many countries in the world, certainly in the UK, we subsidize milk, we subsidize meat. So to even try and get head-to-head price-wise, it's very challenging. In fact, we throw about 15% of the milk created away because it's cheaper, because it costs the farmer too much. But when it then comes to the differences in eating at home versus eating out, I think it comes down to people are conscious and aware and want to make a difference, but they have a capacity in a relaxed environment to think more about their choices and to try things. If you're on the go, if you're running a busy job and you're trying to make a difference, but you go to the supermarket at night going, what am I going to cook? You just go to your default. So it's harder to be consistent in our sustainability choices when we're running every day. Whereas I think people are prepared to try more, to be more adventurous when they eat out, and will consider the vegan option, the plant-based option, because they're not yet educated on what to do. All they think is vegan is cauliflower, vegan is broccoli, and people don't know how to eat. So what Raina was talking about earlier, which is I want to give people delicious food. It's a really important entrance point for people to realize that vegan doesn't mean compromise on flavor and taste. And that those trends that happen out when we're eating start to come into the supermarkets. We can see the trends in takeaway meals now around the Asian influence that's happening here in the UK. So if we continue to provide brilliant foods when we're out, people are making sustainable choices. And that does then start to influence our choices at home as well.
I couldn't agree more. Raina, any thoughts on this? What are the kind of consumer attitudes and trends you're seeing?
Yes, definitely, Hannah. You just hit the nail on its head right there. I mean, So for me, I'm in the forefront, right? So I am literally talking to customers every single day. I am not a product. So I am a restaurant. And so when the pandemic happened, I closed all the restaurants because obviously nobody wanted to sit in and eat out. All they wanted to do was eat at home and order and all. So I created this to go place, or which is now in Brisbane. But I've noticed that people are asking me that they do want to sit in and they want to eat in. So I'm building my backyard at my restaurant so that I can have people eat in. So yeah, there are trends. I'll tell you something. For my culture, for Filipinos, or I don't know if you guys can relate, but the younger generation, is what Hannah was saying, are the ones that are bringing their parents, their grandparents into the let's eat Filipino food, or let's eat whatever food, vegan food. It's They won't even tell them that it's vegan. They're influenced because they're so aware. These younger generation, they're so aware of what's going on with, you know, the global, what's happening to us. So yes, I agree that it is the younger generation that are bringing they're bringing the older generation in,
Mhm.
eating better.
We've spoken about taste. We've spoken about price, of course. Chanel, how do you think we can encourage more people to actually try more plant-based food? And I know you're doing it by cooking amazing food as well, but what are what are other factors that you think influence the decision as well?
I think definitely keeping the variety. I think when it comes to veganism, such as Hannah was touching on, people still have this basic misconception that it's cauliflower, that it's broccoli, it's tofu, and really expanding that concept. I think once we have kind of gotten to a point, we're doing a great job. Like, you can go and find a vegan Filipino restaurant, Japanese if you want. So keeping that variety so customers can end that misconception is really huge. And me being in a city like Los Angeles, you would think that there would be other vegan street food brands that existed before me, but there wasn't. And I think that has kind of helped build a success so quickly because the variety was new. And as long as we keep that playing field open, more diners are going to come, more people are going to be open to eating vegan food because it's fresh. It's the rollout of it that makes it really exciting.
Totally agree. And Jenny was mentioning earlier on the point of eggs being absolutely everywhere. And Hannah, I'm curious to know what has been the biggest challenge when it comes to growing, establishing and growing a business, trying to take over eggs. You're on mute.
I mean, you'd think after 3 years of this, we'd not have to say that anymore, would you? But sorry about that. There's a really important triangle, I think, around cost, flavor, and clean label. And you can't have all three. It's a bit like fast, cheap, quality. You get two. You can't have three. And so I think one of the biggest challenges, if I throw a fourth one in there, is ethics. Because for us, it's not just about being vegan. It's about every single part of our supply chain being as ethical and sustainable as possible. So palm oil's vegan, but we don't agree with its ethical credentials. So we use rapeseed oil, but that's more expensive. And so when you start to, the biggest challenge, I think, in starting a business is being really clear on what also you're prepared to fight with. So, the oat milk, the plant-based milk industry is a really fascinating one because everything's in Tetra cartons and nothing can be recycled because there isn't the infrastructure in most countries to recycle Tetra. So we rob Peter and we pay Paul in the fact that what's the environmental compromise. So for us, for example, lots of our customers are like, we hate plastic. We're like, we love plastic. It just must be 100% recycled. Let's take it out the ocean and reuse it. And also and the price point is key because we want our products to be as accessible as possible to other people. But how do you be ethical, which costs more money? Our plastic is 25% more expensive than the standard plastic on a supermarket shelf in the UK, which majority is 80% recycled. But to be 100% recycled plastic is more expensive. how do you pay people fairly, use recycled cardboard, and ensure that every part of your business is in your heart? And we can't solve the Tetra packaging issue. So our aquafaba comes in Tetra cartons. So you have to say, okay, what is the bit you're fighting for? What's your North Star? And our North Star is removing hidden egg. It's really easy to get paralyzed by, but I don't want to put it in Tetra and I don't want to put it here and I don't. Then you do nothing. You have to lead the packaging guys and trust that they are going to come up with a packaging solution. What is your heart? And our heart is removing egg. And then we do the least wrong. It's not the right thing to put cake in a box. But if we're going to put cake in a box and make it the most sustainable cake that's on the shelf, how can we make sure we're doing the least wrong in that journey? And so I think that's the biggest challenge in starting a business when your heart is about positive change, is being prepared that there are parts of it that you don't want to be doing, but you have to. So what's your North Star? And when you're clear on that and immovable on that, and don't try and boil the ocean, you can't, what's the bit that you're responsible for? And I think that's the biggest challenge.
I really relate to that, and I feel like a lot of people here will as well, because when it comes to, for example, maybe leading the plant-based line within a bigger company that's not necessarily plant-based, people feel like, oh, but I'm contributing to something else. But it's about doing the least wrong and like making sure that you're taking those steps towards getting to where you want to get, which is a future that is as sustainable and good to live in as possible for everybody. I want to ask all of you a question. I'm conscious of time, so let's try and keep it short. What are you most excited about when contemplating the industry in the next few years? Because yes, we're going through a lot of challenges, but let's keep the positivity up. There's a lot of exciting stuff to be excited about. So, Reina, what are you looking forward to seeing in the next few years?
I'm so excited for new products, but I want to say this one thing, and I'm going to stop right here. If you are launching a product, please hire a chef to do a taste test. Please, do it. Just do it. I know that this is something that's overlooked a lot of times, and I talk to companies all the time. Please invest in somebody to taste your food, especially a chef. Okay, that's it. I'm done.
Totally agree. Thank you. Chanel?
I think it's so cool to be in an industry that's constantly evolving. I've been vegan for 12 years, so that's a long time to. I've watched a lot of companies kind of get into the grocery store, and the beauty in that is like we don't have the same products that we had 3-5 years ago, even 10 years ago. We are getting better access to technology, better access to research, and we're constantly expanding it. And that right there is just so awesome to be a part of because you just never know what's coming.
I know, and I'm sure whatever's coming is definitely going to be even better than what we have now. Hannah, what are you most excited for?
Sadly, but excitingly, it's no longer about our ethics. Sustainable businesses drive shareholder value, and when there's money to be made in it, the world starts to listen and change, and we are on that cusp where being ethical and sustainable is now the right thing for the business too. And whether we want it to be about money or not, the fact that it's becoming finally about that, because a devastated world is bad for business. Tides rise, factories go underwater, that's not sustainable. The fact that is what's going to start to create that change at the pace that we need. That's what I'm excited about, because I think we're going to see a big shift in the next 5 years that has to come. So
I couldn't agree more with all of your points. I think, as I said, quite a challenging time at the moment, but whoever gets through the next couple of years is, I think, going to continue to make a big difference to this space. And all of us plant-based consumers here, I think, have a very exciting and bright future ahead. Hopefully everyone here makes it through. Thank you so much for everyone in the audience for listening. Have a great weekend and keep doing what you're doing because you're making a difference. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Another amazing panel, virtual round of applause. How inspiring was that? I honestly can't get enough of these conversations because I love the fact that we are joining women from all around the world, all different backgrounds. I mean, that panel just had Spain, the UK, United States all on together. And yet we're all still finding that common North Star, as Hannah put it. And funnily enough, I actually use the term North Star quite a bit myself too. So I think we have a little bit of a connection there, Hannah. I have a very important update for you all. I'm getting a lot of inbound requests. Really big question. Where are these earrings from, and where did you get these snakes, right? So I am a Slytherin. Is there anybody else know that in their house? Is this like a little bit of an insider, like Harry Potter joke here? Is anybody else a Slytherin? I know that my team has some Hufflepuffs on it. I'd love to hear what you are, but with that being said, I am going to bring up our next speaker. So we're going to go to another quick founder spotlight, another really awesome founder that's doing some exciting things. This time, our first jackfruit speaker. So let's bring up Jessica Kwong from Jack and Friends, and I look forward to hearing more.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Kwong, and I'm the founder of Jack and Friends. We're a company creating plant-based jerky for any lifestyle. So before I dive into Jack and Friends, I figured you'd all want to know who's speaking to you today. I come from a food science background, which means all the lovely, nerdy, and technical topics as they pertain to food are my bread and butter. I've developed everything from yogurt to baby food to baked goods at small startups, all the way to multi-billion-dollar corporations like Mondelez International. During my senior year at Cornell, I actually turned down a full-time offer from Mondelez to pursue Jack and Friends full-time because I was passionate about creating a brand that embodies inclusivity. And what I mean by that is Jack and Friends is on a mission to craft food inclusive of different lifestyles, diets, and allergy restrictions without having to sacrifice nutrition or quality. That's why our first product line is a plant-based jerky made from jackfruit, the jack in our name, and pea protein to create a product that's not only vegan and top 8 allergen free, but also a good source of protein and fiber with no added sugar. So you're probably wondering why plant-based jerky is your first product line. Well, when we look at the US market, two larger multi-billion-dollar markets are plant-based food, which we're all very familiar with here today, as well as your traditional meat-based jerkies. However, at the intersection of these two markets, we're seeing a really unique opportunity for a high growth segment that's growing at 86% year over year because consumers are demanding a plant-based alternative. Not only from a market perspective, but also from impact potential, in just the US alone per year, we consume over 700,000 cows in beef jerky. These cows emit over 150 million pounds of methane, which is equivalent to 4.4 billion pounds of CO2. So by providing a more sustainable, more ethical alternative to just this one category, we're able to have a huge impact on the environment and animal agriculture. To get into the good stuff, like I mentioned earlier, we uniquely combine jackfruit and pea protein and have it go through our proprietary processing to create a product that's not only lifestyle inclusive, but doesn't compromise on taste, texture, or nutrition. Coming from a food science background myself, I was very adamant about having our processing be able to be scaled on existing production lines to avoid that high capex that a lot of food tech companies have to incur when they're scaling up. This means that all of our IP is living as a trade secret and not the machinery, but as a combination of our process flow, our time and temperature combinations, our formulation, etc. And because of this unique processing, we're filling a white space that our competitors have traditionally not been. So we're top 8 allergen free, which obviously the soy or wheat-based jerkies do not satisfy, as well as maintaining a great nutritional profile, particularly in protein and fiber, that mushroom jerkies and other like fruit and vegetable jerkies also do not satisfy. Because of this, great product profile, we're actually finding that our core consumer is not just strictly vegan or vegetarian, but part of that larger flexitarian market that will be hugely important for all of us people in the plant-based food industry to continue to target to grow the sector and have people adopt more plant-based foods in their lifestyle. So these consumers are working professionals leading super busy lifestyles, but still want to maintain a health-conscious lens. So they're looking for products that are high quality, but also convenient, and most importantly, are willing to pay a premium for products that deliver both. And when we do get our product in the hands of these consumers, we're seeing rave reviews, not just on the product itself, but also on how easily it fits into their lifestyle. In terms of where we've been and where we're looking to grow, we launched just one SKU in March of 2019, basically as a super small test market. And I've been able to gain some great early stage traction through press hits, retail rollout, expanding the jerky line, numerous accolades, and also really great D2C metrics. So right now we're scaling up with a new contract manufacturer to finally have enough product to sell, as well as implementing more robust digital marketing initiatives and raising funding to expand the jerky line, the team, and also the portfolio into new product categories. So like I mentioned, we're currently raising a small $250K pre-seed to mainly fund digital marketing, agencies, and that manufacturing scale up. So if you're interested in learning more, definitely check us out online, jackandfriendsjerky.com, or feel free to email me after the event. Thank you.
Is anybody here a jackfruit fan? Anybody? So I have a mixed relationship with jackfruit. I must say I was not a big fan until we did a Future of Foodservice female event at with Jack and Annie's founder, Annie Rue, a few months ago. And whatever she has done is incredible. So I'm excited to try Jessica's product next. How's everybody doing? Y'all hanging in there? Okay. This is my reminder to you all. If you haven't had a chance, hashtag VWS Pathfinder. You can get us on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn at Vegan Women's Summit, or on Twitter at Veg Women's Summit. We will be getting ready before the pitch competition to give out a pair of tickets to the Vegan Women's Summit. So make sure you get your posts out there. We're getting lots coming in. Excited to hear everybody's thoughts. Love to hear what you're learning today. I'd love to hear who your favorite speakers have been, what kinds of topics you're ready to dive into. This next segment is going to be a bit of a jump. We have been talking a lot about food, meat, eggs. We haven't really done too much on cheese. That'll come up next. But what about the other ways that animals are currently being used in the supply chain? And what does that innovation look like? So what's the other big thing? What's the other big elephant in the room when it comes to creating a sustainable and kind way to produce goods? Well, it's fashion, materials, textiles. I'm excited to bring up Elaine and the next panel for us to dive into what does the future of fashion look like? And with that being said, I will turn it over to our next panel.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that intro. I think it's great. Exactly how I wanted to start our panel. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself first, and then for the panelists to introduce themselves. So hi, everyone. I am Elaine Stu. I am the Chief Innovation Officer at Material Innovation Initiative. So sorry, this is funny because she just heard her paw a little earlier, so I'm gonna be holding her through. I think this audience that is absolutely fine. I hope. So at MII, what we do is exactly what was mentioned just now. You've heard all about food, alternative proteins. What we're working on is the next frontier of removing animals from the material supply chain. So what does that mean? Think about what animals are actually used in material. It's basically leather, wool, fur, silk, down, and exotic skins. So these materials are typically used in fashion. They're also used in home goods and in the automobile industry if you think about the car interior. So that's actually a huge space here that we think is going to grow. We have already seen it accelerating, just like 5 years ago, how alternative proteins just basically, just exponentially grow to what it is today. So we're at MI here as an ecosystem builder. And so we work with all industry stakeholders to grow this industry, to shift the market. So today we have three really interesting panelists with us, and we're gonna dive deep into this topic. I would love for you to introduce yourself. If should we start with Casey?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Casey. I am the founder and designer of Sylvan, New York. I create vegan and plant-based sustainable designer footwear out of Italy. And I focus on revamping my full supply chain with as earth-friendly and as close to natural materials and components as possible.
Stephanie, do you want to go next? Thank you.
Yes, I apologize. I hope you can hear me okay, Elaine. I had my earbuds, but they keep disconnecting. I was trying to mess with it. But can you hear me okay?
I think you sound
great. Perfect. So hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Downs. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Uncaged Innovations, and we are a plant-based leather company. And we work with companies like Casey and others to provide new materials for designers to try in fashion, automotive, and home goods.
Thank you. Last but not least, Deandra.
Hi, how are you? My name is Deandra Ray. I'm the founder of Joanne Bernay, and we make luxury vegan footwear from fruit. We are working with pineapples, pineapple leaf fiber specifically, and our brand pillars are merging sustainability with style and not having to forfeit that, but also having great looking shoes that are good for the planet. So very happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm very excited about this panel with three fearless female founders. So I'm actually going to dive right into a controversial topic that I'm sure is on many people's mind. Let's dive right into it. So we've been seeing this everywhere lately. I think in the past year or so, almost a campaign to say that vegan leather is just plastic. I'm sure a lot of us in the audience have heard that. And because all three of you, is so great to have you here. You either work with, or in the case of Stephanie, you're creating a vegan alternative of animal leather. Could you debunk this myth for the audience? What is this actually like? For instance, maybe we should start with Deandra. You in your products you use peanut tags, and I've actually seen this really amazing, clear explanation on your website distinguishing different types of leathers out there. So there's traditional leather, there's PU that everyone's talking about. There's also next gen leather, like peanut tags, so that you use in your design. Can you explain to us how do we differentiate these types of leathers?
Yeah, so we get that question a lot, and actually Pingatex differentiates themselves as not being a vegan leather, just because vegan leathers do really have this wrap that it's filled with polyurethane, and a lot of them are. So it's more a plant-based product. You're really focusing on those biodegradable substances that, are not going to be sitting in landfills and really just creating more waste. So we decided to make it really clear because our customers wanted to understand, what was the benefit of Pingatex specifically, or even apple leather, mushroom leather over leathers, over PU. So really just letting them know it's neither of those things. It's its own specific market. It's been great to just spread that message and really just merging it with that luxury touch. It gives people, brand equity. They feel like, okay, I can be a part of this. If you care about the way you're making it, you care about slow fashion, you care about the fabric, then you care about being vegan.
So if I can ask a bit of a follow-up question here, a lot of us here are animal lovers, but obviously I think this movement is a lot to do with the environment as well. The way we kind of distinguish these leathers at MII is there's the traditional animal-based leather, and there is this PU-based, or what people call is plastic leather. That's just really a cheaper version, what we call it current gen, just because even before this whole plant-based movement, this has existed because it just cost much cheaper, and so for certain market segment that would be preferable because of cost, so they use that instead of the real animal leather. And then we have what we call next gen leather, which is animal free but also more sustainable. So these three, I think, I also only learned about the differences as I been involved more in this industry. Can you talk a little bit about, so first of all, leather, animal-based leather, is it natural, environmentally preferable? Like most people think that, okay, it's like fully biodegradable, it's great, you know, after you use it, just like put it back to the earth, it goes in there. Is that the case? Are we, what you're using now, or what we are trying to move to right now, is it better not only for the animals, but also for the environment? What's your view on that?
Who's that over to?
Yeah, who's that question?
Okay. Sorry, okay. Yeah, and then I'll ask you that question as well, Stephanie.
Oh no.
Question to me, just clarifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really, like, I think it's a difference between being vegan and being sustainable, but they go hand in hand. So, you know, the leathers, it's like a lot of people who are vegan prefer not to wear animal leathers. That's not to say if you're farming the animal correctly, which we know a lot of people are doing mass farming, if you're actually caring about the way that you are creating the leathers, then yes, it can be a product that you can use that can biodegrade correctly. But most of the times people are doing mass, you know, production, and they're not thinking about those things. So I think having vegan leathers as an alternative to these plant-based leathers, or really these plant-based products, really provides vegans specifically with an alternative to actually eco-friendly leather. So, you know, I think if you're doing one or the other, you're really doing your part in reference to helping fashion. I mean, we're really here to turn the needle in reference to fashion.
Thank you. Stephanie, I think you do want to jump in and add.
Yeah, I mean, my personal opinion is that it needs to be progress over perfection. And I think, you know, for example, like if you look back, and you guys probably maybe weren't born yet, but in the 1990s, we had these things called bag phones that were cell phones that you could put in your car. They were huge. They cost a fortune and per minute. And but if we had just stopped at that point and said, well, we can't do any better, you know what I mean? If people hadn't bought that, and you know, so I think that the cactus leathers and the pineapple leathers, I mean, these are they're at the cutting edge, right? Like they're the first innovator, like Pinatex, I've such respect for them. You know, Carmen was one of the first to get out there and, you know, really put her toe in this water. And so and also just as consumers, you know, we vote with our dollars. So we continue, you know, we've got to continue to move the needle, because that's how we're going to get to perfection.
Yeah. So we lost Casey for a little bit. I'm gonna stay with you for a little bit, Stephanie. Would love to, because you actually are innovating with the material. So that's a very interesting perspective, and I would love to hear more about like the challenges or even the fun breakthroughs in invent leather. How has that journey been?
Yeah, so definitely anytime you're creating something that, you know, from scratch is always a special. She's back. Oh, good. You know, anytime you're doing something like that, it's always all kinds of challenging. I speak at a lot of, I've been an entrepreneur now for 22 years, and I've spoken to a lot of entrepreneur groups over the years. And I always say to them, imagine the hardest thing you've ever done. Think about that for a second. Now multiply that by 100. That's what it's like to be an entrepreneur every single day. But, you know, it also comes with a whole lot of excitement and these incredible, amazing feelings when you have breakthroughs. So I think, you know, it's interesting. You know, a lot of us also, you know, I think those have started, like Carmen, for example, with Pinatex, who came from the fashion industry. I think they, you know, as working with the fashion industry is also a bit challenging. And I think the hardest part for a lot of the vegan leathers right now is we're trying to balance sustainability and performance, right? So, I mean, we can't give something to brands that is going to break down in 6 months, or it's going to, you know, fall apart the first time it gets rained. So, you know, those two words, indestructible and sustainable, don't go together, you know? So I think even as an industry, everybody's kind of trying to have those conversations and figure out, you know, where do the brands really need to be, and have they over-engineered some of these products? So anyhow, lots of complexity, but a fun and exciting time to be in the space.
Yeah, definitely. Casey, welcome back.
Sorry about that.
Good to have you back. Well, the next question is for you then. Again, learning so much just reading from your website. So Casey, I was really surprised reading from your website that a shoe actually takes 40 to 60 individual pieces to put them together. So I think a lot of these conversations, vegan leather equals plastic, etc. A lot of the problem with it is it's really oversimplifying a very, very complicated product manufacturing process. So 40 to 60 individual pieces go into one shoe. And I've seen that you use apple leather, you use linings that's from wheat and barley byproducts for the inside of the shoe. And then you also use material from non-virgin plastics. There are so many components that go into that one shoe, right? Can you share with us your thoughts on kind of choosing the materials that you use, and as kind of following up on what Stephanie said, the balancing between sustainability, performance, leaving animal out of the product, etc.
Totally. I think it's so, obviously I'm biased coming from a shoe industry perspective, but I love that we have two shoe brands on this panel because footwear is really one of the most difficult product categories because it's such a complex end product. 40 to 60 different components. You don't see that in something like a handbag typically, or apparel. So there's a lot of different macro and micro decisions that get made in terms of what's the main material you want to use. We talk about vegan and plant-based leathers and bio-based materials, basically the next gen material market. Often that is just the upper, we call it, it's almost like the tip of the iceberg. So there's so many other decisions to make when it comes to the heel that you have of a shoe. Like most heels, in order to have the durability that you need, especially once you get over a certain height, are going to be made from virgin plastic because it's the most durable, it's got the highest strength. And so I was searching to find a heel supplier that would allow us to use a recycled plastic as opposed to a virgin plastic. And it's a closed loop system. So basically they're taking the melted offcuts of the waste from their own production and then bringing that back through the system to make the heels. So, while I wish that we didn't have to use plastic, even if it was recycled, there's just still so many components that are being made. We look at uppers, we look at linings. I use insoles that are made from coconut husks, and having the plant properties of something like a coconut husk, it's naturally antimicrobial and antibacterial. So you get a lot of these performance factors as well. So what I look for first and foremost is aesthetic. I feel like in order to play in the fashion space, we should be looking identical to some of the designer brands that are animal based. So for me, when I chose to work with Apple Leather, which is my main kind of upper material supplier I've been working with for the last few years, it was really driven by finding the closest, almost dupe to an animal leather. But it starts with aesthetic and it goes all the way through performance, function, durability. And I come from a very sustainable driven, like kind of vegan for the planet first as my kind of, I guess we'll stay on the North Star mantra that everyone's using because I think it's a good one. So it's all about too, like, what is the percentage of plant content? How much plastic is being used, if any? It's very much kind of a full spectrum of like how many boxes can we tick, knowing that we often can't tick them all, but how do we kind of move in the right direction and do the best we can with what we have.
That's a really awesome way to describe that. Yeah, just nobody's perfect, but we're definitely trying to get better and better and better. I would like to ask a more kind of open-ended question then to all of you. What do you think have been useful or counterproductive in actually encouraging changes in the fashion industry? Because I think we've touched on this, like your progress over perfection. There are a lot of sustainability police out there these days. What have been useful and what have been counterproductive in terms of actually driving the industry towards a better operational model? That's a big question.
I feel like one of the counterproductive things is when big brands bring in spokespeople who don't necessarily have a knowledge or background in sustainability, but perhaps have a bigger persona. And the collaborations that are done for buzz and press versus substance and knowledge, I think that's definitely moving the industry away from where it should be. Yeah.
To piggyback off of what Casey said, definitely greenwashing is a huge problem. But I guess a good thing I've been seeing, there's always the good and the bad, is really placing luxury brands like, Casey and I's shoe brand on those just regular fashion lists where, other animal products, that they're using as their main material, and we're using biodegradable materials. And it's like, okay, you guys are sitting in the same space. When I created Joanne Vernay, I was like, okay, I want this to be a beautiful shoe that just happens to be vegan. We want people to normalize, biodegradability and veganism. So I love seeing that. I'm like, wow, I love being the only, vegan shoe line on this list of shoe brands. And now people who traditionally wouldn't care, about biodegradability and veganism and sustainability are now, wow, like I feel better about this purchase. Let me tell a friend. So I've been seeing that happening. And every time it happens, I'm like, we're getting one step closer to, making this a normalized way of producing fashion.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in. Yeah, my thought would be, because I come from the vegan food space, I had a plant-based meat company before starting this, so I often find myself kind of thinking back to what worked really well there, which, let's admit, in 5-6 years, I mean, the space went from 20 key players to many. And so I think in the food space, which I think is important for us to remember in the next gen material space, is that remember that we're in this together. And the more that we lift each other up, and even like with our team, like with my social media team, I've said, go like Desertos posts and say, good job, Pina Tex, and that kind of thing. Like, because really at the grand scheme, what we make up 0.0001% of the, you know what I mean? Like our group is very, very tiny. And and I think the more we work together, if we don't work together, the Cattlemen's Association is going to be kicking back and saying, like these guys are eating each other. So I think that, we have to lift each other up. We have to really help. And I think that will move the entire industry forward.
Yeah, well, thanks for that message of collaboration, because I think that is the spirit of this Women Founders Summit as well, right? So I want to move on to talk a little bit about, competition and collaboration with the economy being what it is now. How have it been for all of you in terms of like, how's the investment environment been like? Has it been difficult to raise money? How can people in the audience help, including investors in the audience?
Casey, you want to go?
Sure. I think it's for a lot of different reasons. I think even in I don't even want to say post-pandemic because it's still kind of an active thing, but I guess post-lockdown in our current society, people are really seeing the integration of what's happening in the world to how we act as consumers. And so I feel like in this sort of impending recession that we are also maybe in or pre, I think that it's one of those categories that's proving that it's kind of standing on its own two legs, no shoe pun intended there, but that like it's an industry that's here to stay. And that almost, especially in a luxury space, luxury has inherent, is typically not necessarily recession proof, but the customer that's shopping for their values, your values don't just go away because of what's happening in the world. And so I think that it's a cool time to see that this isn't a trend and that we're only seeing more and more proof that the paths that we are all on is absolutely the future of fashion, and now is the time.
Yeah, and I'll jump in real quick. I mean, I don't think that the three of us could have picked a better time to get into this. I mean, yes, there's the recession pending and that, but like Casey said, coming out of COVID, consumers are actually buying clothes. Like they want to, they're excited to be back in public again. And also I think just like if I talk about this from just specifically as an innovator space, I don't think that we could have picked a better time, as far as the consumer awareness around the devastating impact of animal agriculture combined with, if I'm just looking at the next gen leathers, the challenges with plastic, and that it's just created this perfect storm. And I mean, I can tell you, like from an Uncaged standpoint, in just the last month, we've been contacted by 4 major global brands who like found our website and sent us a form and said, would you have time to talk? So, I mean, that is, you know, as an entrepreneur, like it's kind of surreal to, you know, to have those situations. And so, yeah, so I think, you know, it's a great time to, I would say right now we are where the vegan food space was in 2015, right? We're in that early days. It's really starting to bubble up. But then if I said to everybody on the, at the conference, as far as how can you help, you know, what can you do? I would say buy Deandra and Casey's shoes like that, or, you know, their designs, like that's, you know, you're voting with your, and share it with your friends and tell them and get that, you know, so, because these materials are so, these, you know, designs are so much better for the planet and for the animals and everybody, but you get, you know, people have to vote with their dollars and they got to get behind these things. So I'd say do that. It's all you need to know. Session over. So.
Yep. See, I mean, same thing for me. I mean, I think it's a great time to be in this space. I mean, you look at Gen Z and how they're consuming. I mean, they're all about sustainability. They're all about, you know, veganism. They're all about slow fashion. And so really just seeing that shift, it's a great time for us to be in the market. I mean, for us specifically as a Black owned founder, you know, just with like the movements that we're all getting behind, we're all just more conscious in general. So really people like, you know, Stephanie's saying, using your dollars, putting your money where your mouth is, you know, now we have all this information through big data that we didn't have. We can research brands, you know, we can DM the founders and say, hey, you know, what's the process like behind the scene? You can look at a reel and see how it's made. So we have the power now. And so it's great. It's a great time to really just shift the industry. And I mean, similarly, we've collaborated with so many large companies, even tech companies like Samsung that are like, we just want to understand what you're doing. So it's just a great time for people because everyone's inquisitive and now they want to be a part of this movement. So very like excited just to be a part of it. It's so overjoying. So
Thank you so much. I was gonna wrap up with like a last question that to ask you, you know, positive note, what makes you most excited? But all of you have already gone to that. Like you were all positive, like looking into the future, very excited about this space. As we started this session, it is really the next frontier. And as Stephanie said, this is like 5 years ago, alternative proteins. So yeah, very excited to see what's going to happen with all three of you. Good luck. Everybody go to Casey and Deandra's website. Go find your pair of shoes now. If there's anything else you want to like last word with our audience before we go?
I don't know. I guess I'll just wrap up with one final. I'll wrap up with one final statistic. You know, you talked earlier about the vegan leathers, and we see a lot of that on social media, as you said. But because people will talk about animal leathers being natural, but most people don't realize. So people can also share this with their friends if they ever see them saying something. Something only has to be 80% animal leather to be considered genuine leather. It actually can be coated with 20% plastic. So you know, there's fight the myth, so to speak, and you know your stats and be ready to talk to people about these things. So.
Yeah, know your stats, the details. And thank you so much for sharing with us today your insights and good luck. And yes, I'm going to go buy some shoes now. Thank you.
It was great talking with you guys.
So I actually have a pair of Sylvan boots downstairs that I was going to run and grab, but I unfortunately did not get a chance to grab them. Did anybody get a pair of Sylvan boots at the Vegan Women's Summit this year? I think, Casey, you probably sold out of all of your shoes at our summit that we had in Los Angeles. They are awesome. And they fit my giant feet, which is, well, once you meet me in person, that is one of the first things you may notice. I am probably taller and have bigger feet than you expect. Okay, so Elaine doesn't realize that I'm going to do this, but Elaine also wrote a book last year, and she is an amazing author. Before getting into Material Innovation Initiative, she wrote this book, Your Next 40,000 Hours, about what inspired her to jump into saving the world for her career. She interviewed me for the book and a number of other really cool people. So plugging Elaine's book for her. This is all about women supporting women. You rock. Okay. Next up, we are going to take a brief break. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. So you will see our break screen go on. And then after 10 minutes, after everybody gets a chance to get a drink and run to the restroom and all that fun stuff, we will do one networking session. So if you want to hop on and be a part of that, in the 5 minutes after the break, you'll get to meet another attendee. You can chat about what you are seeing, what you're hearing, what's exciting you, what you're learning today. Maybe you will find your co-founder and build a company together. That is not an unheard of thing. We get stories every single year after we do Pathfinder about people that start companies, join jobs, completely change their life. So we'll see. Okay, let's go to our networking break. See you in 15.